is shining, the birds are chirping, the bacon is sizzling. Welcome to the Daily Swole.
Testing, testing. Testicles. Well.
Pronounce it correctly because it's German.
So let's jump right into it. I'm just making sure I got the camera switching. So now you're on screen, so now you can wave to everyone.
Hello.
Yeah. I screwed up again. I always screw up because I have it so I turn on the audio, but then when I switch screens, all of a sudden it mutes the audio. So everyone always goes, "Oh my God, it's muted." I did that the last interview. So, oh well. So let's get started with just kind of introducing yourself, and then we will just get into what we were talking about before and kind of catch everyone up. So the floor is yours.
Sure. Well, my name's Rachel, obviously. I have been around on YouTube for a little while. I'm a nutritionist. I'm a personal trainer. I also work as a wellness coach. And interestingly enough, I sort of veer into the lifestyle sort of content as well. And I touch on like minimalism and mindset. And I've written a book all about minimalism as well. So I like to try and treat health as a holistic perspective, not only like the food you eat and the exercise you do, but the lifestyle that you try to lead as well.
Yeah, I definitely want to get into like the whole minimalism. And we were talking about it before we went live. When I first looked at your page, I'll talk about like my first impression. My first impression was like, this is like I'm looking at like a home and garden. It's not my thing. It's not my style. But then I actually poked around. I usually don't look at anyone's content. I usually don't really spend a lot of time like perusing through it. But I liked your approach to nutrition. I enjoy a minimalist. I'm the kind of person that has too much stuff. I have, I guess, an issue kind of getting rid of things, but I also don't use much. So I'm very good. I'm getting better now at getting rid of stuff. So why don't we start on that front too? Because if anyone checks out her page, you'll see that there isn't much there, but in a good way. Like you have things, but you don't have things. So why don't you define, I guess, minimalism from your perspective, and then maybe catch everyone up to that might be curious about it, because I'm interested in maybe, throwing out the trash a little bit more myself.
Look, well, you can tell it doesn't apply to plants. The other week, actually, I like pulled all of them outside. And when by all, I mean like 100 and something outside to like water them through and like clean them properly. And I was like, holy crap, our place is so empty without them. So it's like a substitute for all the clutter is plants. But you know what? They're nice. So
they look nice.
For me, I like them. For me, it started as a thing. I remember when I was living at home, like when I was like 19 or whatever it was, I had one of those wardrobes where it was like you had to like body slam the door shut. I had a real problem with like clothing and shoes. It was just horrendous, honestly. I think I had like 100 and something pairs of shoes at one stage, and I was like, I have 2 feet. Like I cannot physically wear all this. And I remember when I moved for the first time, I was like, this is just too much stuff. And so like it was in that first moving process where I started like getting rid of things, and I started looking into it more and more because I felt better without all the extra stuff. Mm-hmm. Like it was just like a lighter feeling. It's like, oh, it's less to worry about. It means if I move again, like I think the last move I did, all my clothes fit into one box.
Wow.
Like literally just, yeah.
Oh, so you really like, so did you just was it a gradual thing, or was it you kind of woke up and were just like, I need to get rid of stuff? Because sometimes you just hit that breaking point.
I feel like, well, for me anyway, I think it's more sustainable if you do it over time, because sometimes if you go ham and get rid of everything at once, you're like, oh crap, I actually needed this, and now you have to rebuy. And then that becomes a whole issue in itself. And I think for me, minimalism has been huge in terms of like living a lifestyle which has less stress. I used to run myself like into the ground. I remember when I was studying nutritional medicine, I was studying that degree. I was working in an office job. I was trying to like build my YouTube channel. So I was uploading 2 videos a week, which I know it doesn't sound like much, but I'm sure you know, like the editing process can be like hectic. And then we were trying to open the gym up in Brisbane at the same time. And it was just, I was working from like 4:30 in the morning till 11 at night every day over and over and over and over. And I had to learn how to apply the concept to my lifestyle as well, which, may I add, has like helped improve my health so much. And I think a lot of people miss over that.
Yeah, explain that a little bit, because what we discuss here on the podcast a lot is the correlation with mental health, which gets completely overlooked in a big way in society. Everyone's either the physical, you're losing weight, eat less calories is very 2 + 2 = 4 and 2 - 1 = 1. But there are many more dimensions. And I feel like even the top fitness professionals overlook the fact that the brain, the cerebral aspect of it, the emotional aspect, but more so just your own internal dialogue with yourself. And I guess how your attachment to things, because if you have a lot of stuff and you have a lot of clutter, it's like an attention drag. It's an attention drain.
Yeah.
So what'd you feel, what was the difference from having your stuff, getting rid of it? How did that, I guess, that mental shift, or how did that improve your mental wellness, and how did that improve your health in that regard?
I think one of the biggest things, like getting rid of the physical stuff, eliminates a lot of decision fatigue. It's like, what am I going to wear? Oh, well, like, you know, I just go for the same thing, like day in, day out. I have like a few things which I choose from. I don't have to spend all morning going, oh, I don't have anything to wear, with a closet full of clothes, you know. And I think in terms of decluttering like your timetable and your schedule, that's helped me a lot to sort of reground myself and go, well, look, like this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And I was treating every single day like it was a sprint event. And even when I think now to like 2015, 2016, how much work I was doing in a day, I can't even think about doing that much anymore. I was like, my God, I was on like hyperspeed. Like I don't know what I was doing. And it got to a point in 2016 where I just crashed, like full burnout mode, could hardly leave the couch for a month.
You just completely fried out.
Yeah, I could not do anything. I was like mentally, I was like, I am not here right now. Like so spaced, no energy to do anything.
When did you start making YouTube videos? When did your channel start? I actually didn't look before we went live.
2015.
Okay, so I started it in like the spring of 2016, so a little bit after you. And it's funny because you were saying how you were uploading twice a week. I was doing like several videos a day at one point. I just thought, oh, more is better. Let me just get a lot of volume up there. And even recently, in the past couple months, I started doing daily uploads. And it's just amazing. It was the one thing aside from the podcast that I was doing every day, but it just takes so much time. And people that don't create content don't realize how much time it takes. And it's not like we're looking for sympathy. It's like, oh, we're creating our business and promoting and making content that's hopefully helping others and, you know, providing value. But from the editing is everything, and the upload time, and then the thumbnails, and then the tags, and the description. And then it's just every single day or twice a week, it adds another level to everything else that you're already doing. Because I saw on your Instagram profile, you click on your little links and you have a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah, just a few. My graphic designer, she was actually like, you need to tidy this up. There is just too many places to go here. And I was like, I know, but like, I don't know what to do. And I think like touching on that thing, like creating the content regularly, I think one element that does get overlooked a lot, I mean, it's one thing to go, okay, you know, I need to edit. Editing in itself is like a very linear process. Like, you know, you're clipping together the video, uploading, captioning, like that's all very standard. I think the element which is overlooked is the creativity element, the thing before you even hit record on the camera going, okay, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to do? How am I going to make this work? And at the end of the day, how am I going to make sure it gets clicks on it? Because that's what we're on YouTube for at the end of the day, right? Like we want people to see what we're making. So it's that process there. Name another creative industry where they have to pump out content so regularly.
I don't know.
Unless you're hired for it, like, you know, you work as like a graphic designer or an illustrator or whatever it might be. Like if you're a musician, you can take months between an album.
Absolutely.
If you're a director, you can take on jobs where you want to take on jobs.
And for sure. And that's where social media changed everything. So now you are your own publishing company. You have your YouTube channel, you have your Instagram, you have all these different dynamics. And if you don't think of yourself as a media company, then you're missing out. So I know from personal experience, I do everything from Twitter to Snapchat to Instagram and YouTube and multiple podcasts and channels. And you start like getting overwhelmed sometimes and you think, okay, did I post here? Did I do this here? Did I cross this over here? And then there's Instagram stories and then it comes out with something else over here. So there's just so many different things and you don't want to miss anything. You want to cover all your bases, but then at the same time, you need to remember to live and take care of yourself. And I had that issue as well. With kind of my own fitness kind of went by the wayside, which I think is very common.
Yeah,
so
that happened to me too.
Did it?
Yep. When I was first starting to try and grow things a bit more, like it would be like, oh, I'll just eat this because it's like quicker. And it might not have been like the ideal meal. It wouldn't have been absolute garbage, but it wouldn't have been the best option I could have had. Mm-hmm. And I think like my training, I'd be like, oh shit, like I really have to go and get stuff done. Let me just cut this workout short and I'll go and I'll like get this done because it's got a deadline and it needs to get done. And so you're sort of skipping out on your own care.
Yeah.
In terms of like growing the business.
And it's also, well, because your business is your baby. Your business is your baby. Yeah. And that's the first thing for me that became equally, if not more important than my own training. And luckily, because with what you do lifestyle, you do nutrition. So at least there's crossover. You're making content that maybe you're making a healthy meal. So you're eating that healthy meal. And maybe I'm demonstrating a workout. So at least I'm working out. I'm not at a desk, but there's that desk component too. So yeah, it's very easy to put that in front. And I noticed I was doing that for a while. I wasn't focusing as much. I was leaving the gym early if my brain was distracted. I was skipping workouts or I was just leaving early because I'm like, I got to get this video edited. But it's the pressure you put on yourself. When did you see your channel? Because if you started in 2015, when did you feel that that ramp up? Because I only had that recently. It took me like 2.5, almost 3 years to get like 10,000 followers. And all of a sudden after like February, now I'm at 60. So I kind of hit that breaking point where I found my voice, found my flow, kind of found what people were looking and interested in. When did you find that kind of explosion, or was it just like a gradual?
No, I've had a couple of like explosions. So I remember, I started like, I think it was like early to mid 2015. And then in December 2015, I uploaded the first few videos of my minimalism series, which is where I talk about, decluttering or like having a wardrobe and curating your style and like just like little tips. It's a pretty big series now. It's got like 40 something videos in it. When I first started uploading them in December of 2015, I think I flew up like 70,000 subs in 1 month. And then in the January of 2016, another like 40K in 1 month. And then, so every now and again, I get these big like waves. It's typically when I start something new.
Geez, I need to start posting some minimalist videos. Just me walking around barefoot or something. That's pretty much as minimal as I can.
This is how I connect to the earth.
Yeah, I know. It's like, but for me, that's kind of how I'm minimalist. I don't wear shoes. I'm either barefoot or I wear, I have minimalist sandals, which are pretty much a thin rubber. I wear Vibrams. I wear like the finger shoes. And
oh my God, I was going to say, please don't tell me you wear those toe shoes.
Yes. Fuck yeah, I do. Hell yeah, they're awesome. I wear the ones that are the least acceptable socially for guys. I wear the original ones that look like ballerina slippers, and everyone makes fun of me. I'm like, you know what? I have long hair. I have a man bun. I stand out as it is. I'll wear ballerina slippers. I'll just make it the whole package. Like this guy is just kind of like all sorts of like contraindications. So wait, do you not like, do you do anything like that in terms of like your footwear? Like where do you, I don't know, because with barefoot, it's more natural. I like to connect with the earth. I like to feel things. I like to create better posture, more natural. What are your thoughts on that? It's funny because everyone always makes fun of me for my shoes, but I don't care.
Oh, I just hate feet. Is that like a valid excuse? I just don't.
It is. You don't want to see.
I think they're so gross. No, look, when I'm at home, I wear these little like woven house slippers. Oh, what are you doing? Hello.
That's cool.
We have a fan of your videos here.
Yeah, what's going on?
Let me unplug that.
What's up, dude? How you doing?
Hey, introduce yourself.
Nice to meet you, man. I play in a rock band and live at the gym with her.
Awesome.
Pretty much.
Very cool, man. Very cool.
She's always cranking on your podcast, and I'm just like completely. I'm like, this is interesting. I like this.
It's different. There's no one in Australia that does this. There's no one. They don't make them like me in Australia.
not the no bullshit kind of vibe. It's more like, hey, I'm sponsored by Gymshark. Come check out my pastel Instagram feed.
Ooh, it sounds like exactly the topic of choice for the day, right? That's like the subject of half my videos.
It's everything, man. It's the bed, it's the sun, the image is just amazing.
Thanks, brother.
A little cameo.
Yeah, I liked it. That was funny. So let's that was a nice segue into, I guess, what we were talking about a little before. Okay, so let's just jump into the deep end. Now, we kind of connected over some of the videos I made. We don't have to get into like the specifics of them, but I make videos about a lot of people. And because of my experience in the fitness industry, and that's, again, why you're going to have great perspective on this, not to mention just a whole different culture vibe. But with the social media, we have this layer on top of culture. So in the real world, we have all the different countries, and you go to Australia, things are a little bit different. Go to Europe, it's a little different. China, it's a little different. You go online and it's just like there's everyone in one room, just kind of like together. Like, what do we do? So you have all this kind of like culture clash, but fitness is pretty universal. We all have bodies. We all lift the same way, no matter what country we're in. But there's a lot of BS, bullshit, in the fitness industry and with supplements. And I know it's very, very rampant in Australia because I see everyone from clothing companies to, for example, Madeline Georgetta. I made videos on her and she's from Australia. And it's really, it doesn't really matter the country because everyone everywhere is doing this. But what's your take on people that are, I guess, confusing or I guess not being authentic? What do you think is the biggest problem with, I guess, when someone says, okay, the BS in the fitness industry? How would you define the BS?
I think, well, okay, let me first establish the problem. I think the biggest problem is people who think they're genuinely helping when they're spreading misinformation. Because no one goes on there to like hurt people or sabotage. I don't think anyone's on there with that intention. Absolutely not. I feel like everyone who is trying to do something is trying to like share their voice and trying to, communicate their message. Whether it's authentic or not is another story. But I think at the end of the day, most people are out there, and if you ask them what they're doing, they're like, oh, I just want to help people. That's cool. Like, I think that's the good side of it. But then at the same time, like, I know we have quite a few people here. Like, I've spent years studying. Like, there's been so many times where I'll like miss uploads because I'm like working on an assignment and I'm like, look, you know what? Like, I'm just going to have to skip this week because I'm too busy to upload a video. They can wait till next week and I'll upload something better that I can put my time into. Like, I've spent a lot of time like learning this stuff just so that I can be like, look, yes, I know it, but like at the same time, I'm qualified to talk about it, if that makes sense.
That's a really good point.
And there's a lot of people who aren't.
Well, so what's your educational background, just for my audience?
Okay, so I'm a personal trainer. Then I also did nutritional medicine, and then from there I applied for credits and I did my undergrad in food and nutrition. So I did the nutritional medicine, and that's like, what would you call them? So it's like advanced certificates, but it's not like a bachelor. So then I went and did my bachelor and I used the other course to be like, hey, I've already studied a bunch of this, like let's knock off a bunch of course time.
Right, credits, right?
And now now I'm doing my postgrad in that. And I also did a short course called wellness coaching, but that was more for me to just learn how to be a better coach.
Okay.
It was more like learning how to like communicate with people more effectively and help them get the results that you want them to get.
Right. And I think that's one of the fundamental issues. And of course, with the internet and with the explosion, you can get information. Information is commoditized. You can Google it and find information. But what traditional school, at least in the United States, they don't teach you how to learn. They tell you what you should know. Like, you know this, answer I don't know if you have multiple choice. Do you have multiple choice? I've heard other countries don't have multiple choice. So that's
we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember I was talking to one of my friend's wives years ago. She was shocked when she was from Brazil. When she came to the United States, she was shocked that we had multiple choice. She goes, what do you mean? Like, they give you the answer and you just choose it? Because every question or every test was always essays. Like all of them, every single test was always essays because only like the cream of the crop would be able to go. And it's like a very select, group of people. So you couldn't just, hey, she was just shocked that the answers were on the freaking, on the test. And it's like, you can not study and still pass.
a lot of the multiple choice ones we have, it'd be like multiple choice, and then like for another point, you have to explain like why you chose that choice and
gotcha.
like what the reason is. Yeah.
That makes sense. And where I was going with that before with the social media, you don't need to, it's amazing who gives nutrition advice. I mean, specifically, but training advice, you don't have to have a certification to have a good body. And you don't have to know what you're doing to look good. So it's very easy to have good genetics, to go to the gym. Some people can just do random stuff in the gym and then just genetically they just respond better. And then all of a sudden they're posting pictures of their butt, they're arching their back a lot and like, oh, you have a nice ass, your mom gave it to you, but then they get tons of followers. And of course, what comes out in like a next week, a booty program. And it's, you know, the same old stuff. So it almost, I guess, devalues, not in a good way, but devalues education and people that actually put the time in, because obviously education is not enough. You need personal experience and of course, creative thinking, because you can't just read a book and know how to help people.
No, exactly. You can't just go, okay, well, this is the theory behind it and this is exactly how it's going to work, because once you throw in the human factor, that puts a huge curveball into it, because it's like how one person is compliant will be different to how someone else is. And the reason that someone else isn't following the diet is maybe for emotional reasons, whereas for someone else, they just don't have time. And so they want to do something different. Like people have such different lifestyles that you can't just throw them exactly what to do and expect that they'll do it. Like it needs to be somewhat customized.
And that's another big rift is information isn't enough to get actionable change. You tell someone, I think a lot of obese people, and I don't know, how is it in Australia in terms of obesity? Is it bad or is it just kind of, is it like, it's getting worse and worse, or like, how much time have you spent in the United States?
None, actually.
Yeah.
I remember like Mitch just got back from there. Like he went, I don't even remember when that was, a few months ago now. And he was like, it's really, but over here, like the stats are 2 out of 3 adults are at least overweight.
That's pretty much the same thing here. I think 2 out of 3 have either they're diabetic or pre-diabetic. It's worse here. I'm sure. Guaranteed, the United States is just the worst of all of them.
You've also got a much larger population, and you've got the whole high fructose corn syrup thing, which we don't really.
It's the laws too, because I know Europe, and I'm not familiar with all the details, but Europe, a lot of the countries just completely ban GMOs. They don't allow a lot of these foods. Is Australia similar to that, or is it kind of open season?
No, I feel like it's not as bad as the US, but there is some GMO stuff, but it's not like, I don't know how to explain it. It's definitely not as bad, but it's still not great. And it depends on the area as well. Like you tend to see, like, especially when it comes to like fast food. I grew up in a really like low socioeconomic area. Literally, you could drive 5 minutes from my house and there would be like 10 fast food places.
Wow.
Because it's easy, right? It's cheap.
Even in a good area in the United States, it's everywhere. Every single corner, wow. It's either gas stations, but gas stations have the markets now. And if there's a McDonald's on one corner, there's a Burger King, there's a Taco Bell, there's just everything everywhere. There's no shortage of it. And plus, when you drive and you have the window down, you smell it because they're pumping it out through the vents.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And what most people don't realize, they forget the fact that all these companies, all these food companies, all they want to do is make money. They want to make money. They want you to buy the stuff. And the reason why they make it so it's addictive is because they want you to buy more of it. Like it's designed to be addictive. So like how would you guide someone, or what would you recommend for people that feel like, oh, I just can't help myself. I can't, they use the excuse that the food is so easy and so accessible. I know, and I think you know as well, it's not an excuse, but what's a better way to look at it? Because in the United States, at least, you're under attack all the time. You're under attack with commercials. Every strip mall has pizza places. Unless you're going to the supermarket, even the supermarket doesn't have a lot of great choices in many cases. And then you have to make those selective choices and then bring it home and then prepare it. And for someone who's just used to being on the road and just grabbing things, that's a huge habitual change. That's not something you snap your fingers. We'd like to say so. I like to say, shut your mouth and stop eating. But that's not a good answer either, because people have this like hormonal imbalance and they're going to feel hungry because they're insulin roller coaster. So like, how would you guide someone, or what would you recommend for someone that feels that's literally under barrage, just a avalanche of all this fast food and junk all the time?
Yeah. So I actually do, like, because I do my online coaching, it's like really intensive, like one-on-one work. So I only take on like a small group of people at any one time. And I've got a few women over in the US actually. So I have had to like deal with that. What I tend to find is if we can at least get them like at least a week of following some better food choices, like firstly establishing like, okay, where's your nutrition coming from? And I like to give people recipes that are easy. Like I always say to them, I'm like, I'm not here to create master chefs. Like that's not what I'm doing. Because I remember when I first started trying to eat better, it was so hard to find recipes that were like easy enough or accessible enough. Like you didn't have to go to like 20 different health food stores to look for some nutso ingredient that came from the goddamn mountains somewhere, you know? And I was just like, why is this so difficult? Like, why are all these recipes using these whack ingredients? And so that's why I kind of started my blog, because I wanted to share recipes that were easy, that you could make that would like fit your macros or your calories or whatever. And that's why I put all the caloric information on my blog as well, because like, I mean, I personally like to track, but just to make the options easy. So what I try and do is give people, here are some options to go for, simple to make, really quick to make, and you can prep some of it and maybe keep it in the fridge or like take it with you in a cooler bag. And I tend to find if they can at least do a week of that, they find how much better they feel. And then when they go, oh, I'm just going to have a cheat meal and I'm going to go and have this, every single time, I have not had one person who didn't say this, every single time they're like, I felt so bad after doing that. The next day I had no energy. I felt so shitty. I'm not going to do that again. And it's crazy that they couldn't see the contrast until you're out of that cloud, right?
No perspective. You're not going to have perspective of the weather. And I had that when I came from Florida, because now I'm in South Florida, and I came from New England, so the northeastern portion of the United States. So I was winter, 4 seasons, really cold, more not quite as humid. I came down to literally the tropics. So I remember in the winter, I used to go to the beach, and now you can't catch me dead in the winter. It's only 70, 60. Sometimes it gets colder in the winter here in Florida, but you can't find me at the beach. But I used to be there every day and like, wow, this is great. You go to the beach all year round. Now, unless it's like 95 degrees, I'm like, nah, it's cold. I'm not going. Screw that. But I think you're absolutely right. You need perspective. And for me, and I want to talk a little bit more about what you said with like calories, because that's a big conversation. I feel like it's coming more and more to like the service and fitness. I classically have always said my approach is with the elimination diet. I like people to cut things out either all at once or systematically. Everyone's different. Some people can just do like, you know, like a Band-Aid right off. They can cut it and they can completely just, you know, eradicate all their foods. Some people need to eliminate one thing at a time that's easy for them, and then take another thing away and take another thing away, because they need that perspective of what they feel like once their body kind of resets and their antibodies get reabsorbed and all those things. Because it's the concept of that these foods sometimes are invading your body, and your body looks at them as issues with gut health. And a lot of people think that the whole gut biome stuff is more woo-woo and it's all about the caloric intake. I personally think that you can get more benefit by addressing the fact that it doesn't always have to be calorie counting at the beginning, because energy balance matters, but also the quality matters. And I think a lot of people just don't like to count, don't like to track. They're not good at, they're not good at doing all these different aspects together. And if you have them do both at the same time, or just count calories, or counting calories with shitty foods.
I find there's 2 ways this can go. I find the people who are often already on the shitty foods, like they're just eating takeout every single day, they're going for those like calorically dense options, which are low in protein, low in fiber. They're the ones that tend to go over the calories. Like they tend to splurge that calorie limit without even knowing, because they might eat 3 meals a day. They might go through a drive-through for breakfast. They might pick up a sandwich or take away something at lunch. They'll get some drive-through on their way home. They're going to be the ones that are accidentally blowing the calorie limit. But then I also have clients on the other hand who would be like already trying to eat better. They've already eliminated those sort of foods, or mostly eliminated those sort of foods from their diet, and they're way under eating. So that's why I like to talk about calories, and I like to personally track, because if I'm sitting here editing a video for like 4 or 5 hours, I actually need an alarm on my phone or I'm going to forget to eat. And I feel like with these better food choices where you've got your lean proteins, you've got your veggies, you've got your high fiber foods, a little bit of healthy fats, it's very easy to almost undershoot your calorie targets. So that's why I like to preach awareness of it, just to make sure you're at the right balance for what you want to be doing.
A lot of people don't realize that undereating is also a bad thing. And I think there's a lot of pros out there that really oversimplify, that are always talking about calorie deficit, calorie deficit, calorie deficit.
It's only so low you can cut.
I mean, look, for a female, you start getting towards, I have people messaging me, I can't lose weight, I'm eating 1,500 calories a day and 1,200. And it's like, you're not going to tell someone to eat 1,800. So either they're just not being truthful and they're missing, which is likely the case. But how much do you think, or how, because you can definitely have this argument, and there are a lot of professionals that will say, no matter what, if you're in a deficit, you'll lose weight. I tend to feel that there are other aspects at play that you can't really quantify in terms of inflammation, in terms of, water retention, because you might not be consuming calories or consuming extra energy, but your body can also hold on to things more. And I'm no expert in it, like in that sense, because there's so much science that we haven't really uncovered yet. And of course, the nutrition companies aren't going to want to do this kind of research.
No.
So there's limited funding for it, because why would we want to get rid of our cash cow? Why would we want to get rid of everyone getting addicted to our food? So this research, there's not a lot of people throwing money at this stuff.
Yeah. No, and I think particularly when it comes to female bodies, I notice too much of a deficit does more harm than good.
How so?
Because, hormonally and like just historically, what do our bodies want to do? They want to be healthy enough to bear children. Not that that's even on my radar or something that me or most of my clients care about. But I think being mindful of that and being mindful of the hormonal processes that your body naturally has and naturally wants to gravitate towards is something that you need to be considerate of. Like, people get scared when their weight fluctuates, but your weight is going to fluctuate depending on which hormone is dominant in your body at which time of the month. And then also on top of that, so genetically, a lot of females, I guess this depends on your body shape and height and all that sort of thing. A lot of females won't get abs until they're about 15% body fat. Hormonal disruptions start at 20% body fat and below.
Yeah.
So it's something to be mindful of as well. And so, if we are causing like havoc hormonally, is our body going to respond the way we want? Probably not. There's also a thing which they've studied in Australia just recently. There's only been one study on it so far, but I'm interested to see where they go with this. And it's called the famine reaction, and it only happens in women. So if they're on a restrictive diet for too long, or if they're in a severe caloric deficit for too long, what can happen is their body thinks it's a literal famine. So it's going to go screaming at you with sirens to eat, 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 eat. And you'll see these women say, I was trying this diet for so long and then I just blew out. And then they had a weekend where they just ate whatever they wanted. And they're like, okay, let's get back to it on Monday. Your body doesn't know it's Monday. Your body doesn't know it's Saturday or Sunday. Like, it has no idea. And it's not like a strict 24-hour period. It's something that rolls continuously, right?
100%.
So I think when it comes to this as well, like, your body doesn't understand that you were in the deficit for 5 days and then you overblew your calories by a shit ton on the weekend. But this famine reaction is our bodies going, we need more food, we need more sustenance. And it's actually something which occurs. And that's how women diet their way to being overweight, because they'll lose weight, they gain it back plus a tiny bit more. They lose weight, they gain it back plus a tiny bit more. And this pattern occurs for years. Like, I remember when I was growing up seeing women who were constantly on a diet, whether it's your auntie or your mom or whatever, they're always on a different diet and they can never seem to lose the weight.
It's there's a lot of demonization with words now, and it's funny how you're talking about that. It's actually, surprisingly enough, it's a sensitive issue when you talk about, you mean women are hormonally designed to bear children? Like, we can't talk about evolutionary biology in this country because you're going to offend someone, because the patriarchy has to come down and all this stuff and everything. There's a social push which contradicts science and common sense. And what you're talking about with that kind of clashes in terms of the social structure, you have a lot of emotions and feelings that people are using to mask reality. And
Yeah.
I mean, what you said, I agree 100%. There's this disconnect with the word diet, because I like the word diet. I use the word diet. I don't shy from
Me
it because
too.
I use it in the sense like I'm on a diet. Like your diet is what you eat. So
Yes.
your diet
I think I literally have an Instagram post that says that. I'm like, your diet is just what you're eating.
literally what you said about the rolling calories. I don't know if I did it on yesterday's podcast. I've been talking about the rolling. Your body doesn't know. I mean, it knows it's the evening, but kind of. I mean, it doesn't know that, okay, it's 12 p.m., it's midnight, or 12 a.m. midnight.
Yeah.
It's not, okay, calories are done next day. It's like, no, it's over the course of 3 days for a week. So if you are in a 250 calorie deficit for 5 days, but then you go over for 200, or 500 for 2 days, like it's going to balance out. You're going to have that. If you're playing by the numbers, that's going to even out. And, so go into a little bit more like your thoughts on the word diet and where that's getting like pulled apart by society. Because again, I'm not sure exactly your experience with all this bullshit that I kind of sift through. I just feel like it's so much more prevalent in, I don't know, I see it everywhere. So I'm not sure exactly how exposed you are to it or how closely you look at it, but
Look, I try to only follow accounts which I enjoy. Like if you go through my account following list, it's like a plant page, a page that posts nice pictures of interiors. I try to really control the content that I'm consuming because otherwise I just get real angry. Used to be such a prickly pear about this stuff, but I try to just like chill out. But you know what? Like if I go on the explore feed across it, don't I? Because it's like based on, similar accounts that you follow or whatever it might be. And I try to only follow people who are like really solid in their advice. Like, I don't know if you've heard of Lee Baxter. She's a dietitian. She's awesome with her advice. Like, then you've got like, there's always a few people who are going to be like really onto it and just honest and, bullshit approach. And that's what I enjoy. And that's what I like, communicating with. Yeah, I do run across some of these things, like someone censoring obesity, and I was like, man.
Oh, that was who was like, that again? Who was that? That's our girl. That's my girl. That's my girl Madeline. She was doing that. Yeah, when you change.
But it's like it's a word. Like if you're afraid of the word, then the concept's going to be even more scary, right?
Why are you afraid of the world? Actually, I have a video coming out tomorrow about, for example, about fat phobia. Like specifically that word. But when it comes to obesity, and a lot of people are talking about obesity, how, they're using that emotional attachment and they're complaining because obesity is a medical word. It doesn't mean that it's bad there's a reason why it's a medical word. It's because it addresses the issues that are going to come from, because it's a medical condition. It's a medical issue because there's medical consequences. And there's separation between how you feel and how, if you're overweight, you're self-conscious. I don't think anyone wants to be overweight. And that's where like my content is trying to separate. I'm not trying to attack someone and make fun of you. Like you're fat, ha ha ha. It's about, you need to take responsibility and take action and at least be moving forward. And it's not going to be as easy for everyone. It's not going to be necessarily as cut and dry. It's going to be your own journey, but you need to be addressing it and not ignore the fact like, oh, well, this fat acceptance is kind of like an arm around the shoulder. I don't have to lose weight because I'm beautiful the way that I am. And I surround myself with people that say I don't have to lose weight and I'm not at risk for disease, like Tess Holliday and these other people that you might have seen online. It's just, it's hurting people because the social structure and the way we get our information is putting that at risk. Like I don't see that in person. Like, do you have any interactions with fat acceptance and with that kind of stuff in like real life?
No, in person, I only have people coming up to me asking for gym or food tips. Like,
Right.
I don't have anyone saying anything like, oh, you're not being this kind of person. Like, I got a bit of backlash when I posted a rant on my Instagram, but it's because, like, I was just so fed. The rant is still on my profile, by the way. I, like, saved it to my story highlights. But I just get a bit fed up with it because I've personally experienced clients who come to me, like, one sticks out so much. She was crying, bawling her eyes out because typically I'll work with someone 3 months. Like, they can extend if they want to, but it is designed to be a 3-month course to set them up on the right pathway with the right habits and going forward. And I keep in touch with all of them and, you know, make sure they're still okay and everything. But one of them, she just bawled her eyes out and she's like, I just want to thank you so much because, you know, I was following so many of these body positivity pages. And let me just say, like, positivity has changed from what it used to be. I'm not against the movement, but I'm against what some people are promoting it as. But anyway, jump to that. She was like, I was following a heap of these pages, and then, I was feeling sad and I was feeling depressed. So I was using food as my way to cope with that. But then it was creating me a second problem. And she was already pre-diabetic, and she was 23.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, I know. And it's just like people, they don't see that what they're doing could potentially influence someone like that. And I think that's something to be mindful of. Well, the effect our words have. We can't say who we can and can't relate to.
True. And I think that's one of the issues is that I can't, if you feel sad or you feel happy, like I can't judge your emotions or your feelings. I can't say you feel like this, because if you don't, then you don't. Yeah. So I don't know what you're feeling. So it's not that their feelings don't matter or people's feelings don't matter. It's about the impact that they have on other people. And the big issue is when someone says that they are a nutritionist or a coach and they are providing information under that umbrella. And that puts people at risk, because the average person is going to listen to someone that's a registered dietitian, that's a nutritionist, that's a personal trainer, or that says that in their profile. So you're going to listen to that more. And when these people are giving dangerous advice, they're influencing people. So you say, okay, you're a fitness influencer, you're a nutrition influencer, or whatever. You're influencing people, and it's the people that are not just necessarily commenting. Some people just look at an Instagram post and scroll through. Not everyone reads the whole post for the context. People usually just kind of hit and run. They see, oh, I can eat fat. Cool. Oh, this nutritionist says that I can eat Oreos every day. I don't know if you saw one of my more recent videos about a registered dietitian that literally every picture is her with pizza or donuts. And she has like things like, this is how I cut calories. And she has a piece of pizza and like a pizza cutter and all this intuitive eating. And it's like, if you have addictions, it's like telling an alcoholic or someone who's addicted to drugs, oh, it's just do it intuitively. It's like, that's not going to get you out of the mire. That's not going to solve it.
The only person I've met in my entire life who can truly eat intuitively is Mitch. Freak. He's an absolute freak. And do you know why? Because he tracked for years and he knows how much he needs to eat to maintain his weight, how much he needs to eat to gain weight, and how much he needs to eat to lose weight. He knows how to eyeball that. Yep. And you can pick up a piece of food and go, how many calories do you reckon are in this? Like me and his friend, we were testing him. We were like holding things, and we had the nutrition side and he did not. How many calories do you reckon are in this? And he'd be off by about 5.
Wow.
Every time.
Like that.
He's a freak.
That accurately. Jeez. See, I don't count. Yeah. I don't count either. And I guess you could say intuitive. When I'm hungry, I know when to eat. I know about how much food I eat. If I feel a little bit like flat or, skinny, it's like that internal feeling. Like I just feel like I'm not pumped. Okay. I just have another sweet potato. I need to maybe eat some more carbohydrates, or I add a little bit more volume. But again, when I started, I was eating on the clock. I was eating every 2 hours. I was managing. So I know, okay, this bowl of rice is enough. This amount of a sweet potato is, so you learn. And I think that's where,
you know what it looks like.
Right. And a beginner, intuitive eating is dangerous. Now, the only time where I think that could be effective is if someone's doing something like a strict elimination diet, where they're really eating a lot of fibrous foods or eating really clean foods. It's much harder to overeat, but at the same time, calories matter. So there's two different ways to approach it. You approach it analytically.
I think it depends. Mm-hmm. If you're someone who has a disordered eating history, intuitive eating is probably great for you, because you're going to take away any of that sort of I feel like some people do get caught up on these and things. For some people, it's an addictive process to wanting to hit the numbers exactly and track everything, and they get like sort of overwhelmed with that. So I think if you're someone who has that approach to it, maybe it is good to let go of the numbers for a while and just go, okay, what do I feel like I need to eat, and how much makes me full, and when am I hungry? I think that's a good way at it. But I think if you're someone with a specific fitness goal in mind, you need to know like how much you're having of what, or otherwise you're going to get frustrated. You're going to be like, why am I not getting the results I want? But you know what you're doing because you haven't looked at it. And I
guess it comes back to the message that you're putting out there. If you're doing one-on-one, and like you said, you do one-on-one, but you go deep with your clients, you actually really get into it. A lot of people say they give one-on-one, they give cookie cutter nutrition plans, they do all this kind of stuff. And when you take a look, if you're doing one-on-one training, and you know this, maybe what, like 10 people, 15? I mean, you're all the time if you're with 10 or 15. And then after that, it's like a teacher or an instructor. If you have 30 people in a group exercise class, you can't pay attention to everyone's form. Someone can get hurt and you just miss that one person out of 30 or out of 40. So, so my approach, because I'm aware of that. And I think that has to do with, your skill and your awareness and my awareness that the words that I say are going to be, I imagine everything that I say is going to be taken in the worst possible way. That's what I'm talking to, and that's what I kind of think about. And I know Alan Roberts, another guy who makes a lot of these videos, we talk about you talking to the stupidest person in the room. So, and that's not an insult, but you're talking to you're talking to like, a child who doesn't understand English. Like want to make sure that it's clear, but I understand that a lot of what I say can be taken wrong. So I actually don't really address detailed nutrition on purpose. I think a lot of, and I'm curious as to your approach on this as someone who has gone through a lot of education. When you have a personal trainer, just like personal trainer that gives nutrition advice, and you have a lot of these people online that give nutrition plans, not only is that borderline illegal and, it's negligence and
immoral.
I think it's completely liable. Like, man, with a litigious society, with everyone suing each other in the United States, you're going to tell someone what to eat? That's extremely risky. What if they eat whatever and they
too much, too little,
they have an allergic reaction,
whatever.
and they die, and you told them to do it? It's crazy. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's why, I try to be so careful with it. Like, I have an ebook which is based around nutrition, but it's just got recipes in it. It's just got general guidelines in it. It's like, here, this is what macros, this is how to calculate your calories for what you're doing. And that's what it talks about, because I'm not going to give prescriptive advice to a whole bunch of people, because I think that's dangerous. Like, there is an influencer over here. Don't get me wrong. I think her content's beautiful. She takes awesome photos. Her videos are really nice to watch. But then she went and did a gut reset program where it's like the food is prescriptive. It's all the recipes given to you, what you need to eat when, and then she sells a supplement line to go with it. I'm like, you can't, you don't know what is wrong with that person's gut that's buying your program. How is that going to make things better?
It's scary when someone is giving detailed advice, but that's why I make some of these videos, because again, that woman that I was referring to, she has RD in her name, and I have a follow-up video coming on that, because in her comments, someone was saying that I'm 300 pounds. And you're telling me to intuitively eat. And she's like, that's great. Keep going. And the girl's like, you didn't even read what I said. And then she responded saying, sorry, I didn't get the question. And she recommended that she goes to see a dietitian. I'm like, you said you're a dietitian. That's like what you do. Why don't you answer her question as a registered dietitian, unless you're completely making it up? So I don't know, and for everyone that's listening, just because you have a degree and just because you have a certification doesn't mean you know what the hell you're talking about. And there's so many people that don't have degrees that provide good information. And there are people that have degrees and PhDs even that don't know what the hell they're talking about. I mean, we've been
It's like when I see a trainer getting a person in the gym to do cable kickbacks, and I'm like,
yeah, that was my post today about Gymshark twice.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, that was a Gymshark. I was like, stop using your freaking cables. Go do some squats. Go do some hip bridges. Like the cables. That's where all those genetics come in. That's where the genetics, you do a couple exercises and you have a butt, you arch your back. It's like, those aren't glutes. That's an anterior pelvic tilt. That's not, those are not glutes. Those are not glutes. Arching your back does not mean you have an ass. You're wearing heels, you're arching your back, and you got that that foot crossover. I'm trying to perfect my Gymshark pose with You
got to take a photo once you've done it.
Yeah. You cross your leg over, kind of like you have to pee, and then you point your toe in the front, and then you pop your hip out because.
I remember I started getting screenshots of a bunch of those for a while, just because I thought it was the funniest pose.
Yeah, you go up on the toe on one leg, which puts all your weight on the back one. Then you push your butt out, and then you kind of see that nice little pop. So then it's a good little booty pose. Or you do the side one where you're doing a lunge, and you're taking a shot from the side, so you can.
I remember I taught when I had the PT studio, I taught all PTs how to do that pose. I'm like, look, this is how you do it.
This is how it's done. So, I mean, okay. Covering all that in terms of because there's so much. There's so much with the social issues. There's so much with the lack. I mean, diabetes is not an emotion, and people feel like diabetes it's a feeling. It's like, oh, I'm not going to get sick. I mean, what are your thoughts? What goes through your head when you hear someone saying that, for example, healthy at every size? That's a whole other thing that we didn't really touch upon. I didn't say that yet, but there's all these different little subcategories. What's your take when you hear someone that says that you could be healthy at any size?
So my original understanding of the saying is people were saying you can be healthy at any size, like the term healthy being an adjective, like your body is in optimal functioning range. Do you know what I mean? That's what this saying, I believe, originally meant. But then when I talked about it in my Instagram story the other week, someone did a post saying healthy at every size does not mean they have to be healthy at this point in time. It means they can do healthy actions and they're allowed to access Medicare without stigma. And I'm like, well, so they've changed the meaning to mean healthy as a verb, as like a doing word. And of course anyone can participate in eating well, and anyone can participate in going and getting some exercise. But I was saying to someone, like, even things like MTHFR double gene mutation and things like that, where they're like genetically inclined to put on more weight, they've shown that that's only 5% of weight increase. And then things like PCOS. I have PCOS. A lot of women who have PCOS say, oh, I'm overweight because I have PCOS. And I'm like, well, maybe, the weight can come from you're not acting PCOS in mind. You're not eating with your hormonal imbalance in mind. Because I found when I really honed in on my diet and honed in on my stress, that's when all the PCOS symptoms went away. So there's all these other things we can look at for it. And I was saying to this person who sent me that message, I was like, well, if they're doing healthy actions a majority of the time, why, how did they get that way in the first place? Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that from I'm not trying to attack anyone. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just I'm asking it objectively from a scientific standpoint. If you were someone who ate whole foods most of the time, who, goes out and moves their body every day, whether it's just doing Pilates or going for a walk or whatever it might be, how do you become morbidly obese?
So maybe so are you kind of saying the chicken or the chicken or the egg, which came first? Were you healthy?
No, well, it's more like if they're saying it at every size and saying that these people do healthy actions, they can do them, but is it the minority of their actions?
Right. I see what you're saying. So they were defining it differently. Well, I think that's a big problem with all these words is they have definitions, they exist. First off, human beings we're just crazy with putting a title, putting a name on this, putting a name on this. Everyone's creating these little categories.
How we understand the world.
Right. So you could have a tribe, and then you have fat acceptance or body positivity was originally from people that were burn victims or amputees, feel better about themselves, which I don't think anyone would disagree. And like you said at the beginning, I don't think anyone goes online. Well, I mean, some people trolls, but people are creating fitness content. That's a whole other thing. But they're not going on I don't think Madeline is intending to hurt people. I don't think she's doing it on purpose, but I see the chain reaction with just accepting lack of action and coddling rather than giving people or empowering people. Because when you put an arm around someone, you literally take their agency away. You take away their ability to just do things, their autonomy. And it's no, you're in control. You don't have to just succumb to this just because you put a title on it and then, okay, everything's good. I'm part of the fat acceptance movement. Now I'm
if you want to pretend calories don't exist, it doesn't make them stop existing. It's like saying all of a sudden you don't acknowledge temperature.
Yeah. Doesn't make it any warmer or cooler. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with the actual medical and science. And that's an issue with social science. You have social sciences, which uses the word, hijacks the freaking word science. No, that's not science. That's not science. You're making things up. And that can change day to day. We don't have to go too much, but there's so many of these issues, but it clouds the actual, the truth behind it. And then when you start using science and say, no, the majority, 2/3, 60%, $300 billion a year on diabetic medication. And what's scary to me is this pre-diabetes, because that means someone's going to get diabetes within the next 5 years. And that's just, people are I see people in the airport. I was just traveling recently and I literally made a post about this, about people that just can't, they're going on a flight for a couple hours. I see them because I flew to Cleveland, Ohio, to see my friend, and it was like a 2-hour flight. Like, you can't just not eat junk for 2 hours. Take a nap, watch an episode of Law and Order. I said this like the other day. Just like, don't eat for just a couple hours, but instead, or bring something, but then they're eating chips. And of course they bring around soda, they bring around everything, and it's free. And if it's free, if you feel like you're obligated, or if you feel like this is included in your ticket, you're going to automatically ask for it. If it was extra, I think a lot of people would turn it down. Like, no, I'm okay. They bring their own water. They bring their own thing. But of course, if it's free and it's included, well, I don't want to miss out on the free cookies. I don't want to miss out on that. I'm owed that. So, and that's a great way to like sell people things like, oh, if they think that they should have gotten something, they want it. But if you offer them, hey, would you like a cookie? No, I'm okay. Hey, did you get your free cookies when you came in? Oh, shoot, there's free cookies. And they'll go and grab it because they feel like they missed out when they should have had something rather than offering it. But then, so people are just eating. They're mindlessly eating. I mean, do you think it's like a physical habit? Like, how much of it is physical and just used to like doing like a smoker? You're just used to like doing this, used to doing that? Or how much is it your body is just craving it? Because I saw someone, and I want you to weigh in on this. And again, this comes back to a video I made on the same person, this dietitian. She said that the food that you restrict is the food that you'll crave. And it was like a picture of, in other words, don't restrict these foods because if you restrict them, you'll crave them. So does that mean you eat junk? I know. It doesn't make sense. I know it doesn't make sense.
My brain is just like melting out of my ears.
Welcome to my life. I know. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. Of course, it doesn't mean it's okay to eat them. Of course, you're going to crave them because it's like a drug that you get addicted to. Go ahead.
And this is what I talk to my clients about, and especially, so a lot of people I notice, they go through, let's go to work. Cool, it's someone's birthday party at work. There's 3 cakes. And I train people to look at it and go, okay, but I mean, if you really wanted a piece of cake, couldn't you go and buy one? And they're like, well, yeah. And I'm like, okay, so it's the reason for having it. And usually it's something like everyone else was having it, so I felt judged by not having it. Or I felt like I was missing out if I wasn't having it. I feel like this is why I do my coaching. I have a huge portion of it which is dedicated to, like, I call it my mindset coaching program. There's podcasts, there's like worksheets that they literally have to work through. Like, hey, I'm sending you back to high school and fill this out for me. Because it's like, I want people to actually sit and analyze, like, not so much just their actions, but like, why are we doing something? Like, does coming home and turning to and ordering food, is that your way to decompress for the day when there's probably a better option that you can do instead? There's reasons that we make the choices that we make, and everyone makes choices based off the experiences they've had that day, that week, that month, whatever rewards them psychologically. So I think we need to analyze, like, where is this choice coming from? Why are you making it? And I think that's such a big part of it.
You touched upon something that's really important that we haven't really gone into depth yet, is about your social surroundings. And it's not just, of course, online is really important because a lot of people are more alone. And when you pick up your phone, all of a sudden you can connect. And I mean, I'm sitting here. I don't go out and party. I don't go to clubs. I don't do, because I'm doing a lot of this stuff, but I'm talking to thousands of people and I'm making content. But in real life, your inner circle, your family, your friends, that is so important, your social circle, and what you expose your eye holes to online, how many people you're following and what you're seeing. Because on Instagram, you can't control that. If you follow them, you're forced to see their kids and their puppies and their food and their this and whatever they're doing, whatever they're going, and all these, their trips and whatnot. But when you're around people and you feel that social pressure, it's really important for people to cut off those that don't serve them. If they're being pressured, people don't realize what that actually means, that those people
you
don't
want to belong.
care.
I think deep down you want to belong to something, and you want to have that tribe mentality. Like, if you feel like people are judging you for not doing what, then of course you're more likely to be pressured into doing it.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And if you're going out, well, and I tell people that you have to, because for me, I have a few friends. Like, I don't have necessarily acquaintances that I hang out with, and you probably know people that they're spending time with a different person every night. They just have like a million friends and they're always going to lunch with this person, I'm going to lunch with this one. I have maybe like 4 or 5 people that I would separate myself from what I'm doing to spend time. Like otherwise I'm doing me, I'm doing my thing, and that's just where I am in my life. But the people that you surround yourself with, And I guess that's a great way to think about it. You've heard of probably you're the sum or you're the average of the 5 people that you spend time with, but it's really important. And if someone is forcing you or like pressuring you, like, oh, it's just one, oh, come on, it's just one here, just take a sip. It's just one sip. It's just one piece of pizza. It's just one thing. Like that's not the kind of friend you want to have. You want someone that's supporting you. And for a lot of people, that might be their mother, their father, their brother or sister, their best friend. Well, maybe they were your best friend and they were supporting you 10 years ago. Maybe they're not the best friend for you right now and where you want to go. It's not easy for people, but who you surround yourself with is extremely important for, I guess, the ability for you to make progress with where you want to go. And people have to break away from that. It's hard.
Yeah, one of my when I first started getting into eating and everything, that was when I was still working in like your regular sort of office job. And one of my friends from work, he was like, "Oh, so like, should we go out and like have a few drinks this weekend?" And I was like, "No, I just don't feel it," because I was trying to cut back on alcohol. Like, I don't drink anymore at all, but I just slowly tapered it back. Like, that's what worked for me. And he was like, "Oh, can we go out?" And I was like, "Nah, like I don't want to. Like, I'm putting so much energy into the gym stuff that I don't just want to like screw it up by drinking." And he's like, "Oh, so when do you finish this training thing?" And I was like, I don't. I remember having that like exact reaction. I was like, what do you mean finish? Like, where are you going with this? And now my friends, oh my God, I love my friends so much. Like, if we go to someone's dinner, they're like, "Rachel, you bring your own food?" And I'm like, "Yes." Like, I would make dessert for everyone and bring dessert, but I would like eat my own food, because it's still like, I want to make for people that they can enjoy. Like, I made like a chocolate slice I think it was like a month ago now when we went to dinner, and I was like, "Here, you guys have this, and like I'll have my goddamn rice or whatever it was I was eating." And one of my other friends, it's his birthday next week, and he's like, "Oh, look, it's at a bar, but like feel free to come along and bring Mitch, and then you can get sleepy and go home early." And I was like, "Thank you."
That's funny. And that's what I do too. I usually bring my food or I'll eat before I go. And people, but then that social pressure, once you go, it's like, "What, you're not going to have one?" "Oh, just a little bit." I like what you said though about the training thing. Like, how long are you doing this training thing for? I think that's another big reason why people are afraid of the word diet, why people don't get results, is because when they get started, they feel like there's a finite end.
An end date.
Yeah, they feel like it's going to be over. It's like, well, it's over when you're 6 feet under the ground. When you die, it's over. And it's important to understand when you're starting, but that's overwhelming. So for me, when I promote, I guess, my content and when I have members coming in, it's not really the sexiest selling point. It's like, "Hey, we're going to get started the first day of the rest of your life. This is a lifestyle shift for the rest." And it can be overwhelming, but I want to make it clear to people that what they are starting is like they're committing, and that commitment and that change can happen in a second, or it might take, a progressive time frame. But that can also be challenging for people when you compare yourself to everyone you see online. And bringing that back to what you were saying earlier about women being you can have hormonal issues and endocrine dysfunction under 20%. And a lot of people listening to this probably don't know. And in case you don't, if you do, kudos, pat yourself on the back, that women naturally have a higher body fat percentage. So I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but I guess a guy, when you're looking lean, healthy, maybe like 18%, a female, maybe like 22, 24%. I think there's like a general range of like, it depends on so many factors, but it's very easy for a woman to look slender, lean, or fit or healthy, whatever you want to call it, at a much higher body percentage than a man. However, when you look online, how many of these women are well under 20%? There are some fitness models that are shredded, but they only post their best pictures. Why? You're not gonna write about how you're skipping your period. A lot of people aren't going to talk about that. Some people now are being a little bit more forthcoming and talking about their personal issues, which builds trust. And then, of course, they're going to have a nice, strong community like yourself. But when you talk about your own struggles and you humanize yourself, because we're all people, we just make content, we're just on the other side of the screen, but it's important for people to be able to relate. So I feel like it's really important to be authentic, but a lot of these influencers and people that are, I guess, influencing others to make these choices, or they're following just advice from people that are not being forthcoming with what they're dealing with. When you look at them, you see them shredded in veins. It's not normal.
No, but on that topic, she's not shredded in veins, but there was a YouTuber, I don't know her name. She was vegan. She had a vegan channel, and then got a photo of her eating fish.
Ravana.
And then she came out and she was like, "Oh, I haven't been eating meat for a while because I had all these hormonal issues." But then she was still promoting her vegan lifestyle books, and I'm like, well, hang on, like if it's not working for you, why are you promoting it?
Yeah, I did a video on her because people were just messaging me like crazy. They're like, do a video on her. I'm like, who is this person? I never heard of her. Yeah, so what happened was, or I guess someone she was with on whatever vacation, wherever she was traveling, they were vlogging together. Like she was doing a vlog for her channel, he was doing a vlog for his channel, something like that. And I guess he panned and it had fish. Heaven forbid there was fish on her fucking plate. So it caught fish and then everyone's like, oh, you're eating fish. And it's sad that she had to, I mean, she was young. I don't think she was making good decisions with, obviously she wasn't being transparent. And the vegan community, we can talk about that. I mean, how hardcore they are. If you leave it, you are just ostracized and you're kicked off. You could jump off the edge of the earth. And the earth is not flat, by the way, everyone's round. But she had to defend herself for making a choice that was improving her health. Like this poor girl was suffering from health. And I look at it, I mean, I don't think what she did was right, but I also feel for someone who has a big YouTube following. You don't want to, I mean, that's probably her livelihood. She's getting sponsors or she's making ad revenue.
It's her brand.
Right. And she doesn't want to break and ruin what she did, but she also doesn't want to be unhealthy. But there's a lot of vegans and people that follow that lifestyle that try to force it. And I used this analogy the other day about, trying to put like a round peg into a square hole or vice versa, a square peg into a round hole. They're trying to be a vegan and force and get their body healthy being a vegan. Like there's no other option. They're like working it different ways, vegan keto, vegan intermittent fasting. And when it doesn't work, they don't really address the fact that maybe it's the fact that you are cutting out major food sources.
Yeah.
And it's just,
there's a difference between doing vegan and having food knowledge and doing vegan and just going off what you see on YouTube and someone's what I eat in a day. Like, I think, there's a disparity there.
Yeah. And plus all the documentaries, you get a lot of these biased documentaries, pretty much. I mean, anything a human being posts or human being creates, whether it's a documentary, a docudrama, you have to understand that it's all biased. It's all for some kind of effect. If you're making a documentary about veganism, obviously you're going to be pro-vegan. Obviously you're going to show the horrors of and I'm not saying everything's perfect. I mean, let's be honest here.
Far from it.
Yeah, when you have 7 billion people or like in the United States, 400 million people, and you got to feed everyone, we have a lot of things we have to overcome. And if someday, in my opinion, if we can create meat in a petri dish and it's healthy and it all does everything that's good, maybe that would be something that would be excellent. I mean, like, hey, we can grow meat and if we're all benefiting from it and it's okay, but then where are all these animals going to go? Like there's just going to be cows running through the street. Like you're just going to, people forget that you're not going to, if you're not eating the animals, you're like, where are you going to put them? So there's still going to be some kind of issue and nothing's perfect. And you can have the argument, vegan, you're tilling the land, you're killing all these little rodents. So nothing's perfect. Death is a part of life. I mean, what's your experience with veganism? Like, have you ever tried it? Have you ever tried like being vegetarian? I feel like everyone's kind of, I've done vegetarian, pescatarian kind of thing for a while back in the day when I had issues, but I eat grass-fed beef and like stuff like that now. What's your experience with it?
I think if you scroll back to like my older videos, like 2015, and you watch them then, there was hardly any meat in my diet. Like it was because that was the time when Freely the Banana Girl ruled YouTube and she would rip apart people's one a day videos. And it was, I remember like all my videos would be like, why aren't you vegan? You need to be vegan. And I still get comments like that. Have you considered going vegan? Will you go vegan? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm Jesus, like, oh my God, I'm not asking you to change your diet. Like it's just, and I read this interesting post the other day actually, and I sent it to my friend Jason, who used to be a vegan, and it was talking about religion, but about the cult mentality. I'm just going to see if I can find it really quick, because it was talking about people who try to convert other. It's actually to help reinforce their tribe. And I'm like, okay, so what did it say? It was like because someone was asking about, let's ignore the religion factor and not even touch on that debate, but people were talking about like, why it was a Christian person saying like, why do people get angry when I try to like share the word of God with them? And I felt like it related very strongly to diets and what people experience now. And they were saying the entire process is not what you think it is. It's designed specifically to be uncomfortable for the other person because it's about converting them. It's about manipulating you so you can't leave what you're doing. Because the more you're rejected and ostracized by other people, the more you're going to turn to follow and do what you do for comfort and for that tribe mentality. And I think it's so strongly forced on the internet. And I'm like, look, I tried a time where I was eating whey products, and that was the time when my PCOS became its worst. My skin was horrendous. Like I was gaining weight with no idea why. There was a point where I was training twice weights and cardio like 6 days a week. And let's not talk about the fact I was overtraining as well, but on top of poor diet, it just wasn't working for me.
For anyone that might not be aware, I believe it's polycystic ovarian syndrome. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I actually don't know off the top of my head exactly how to explain that. Can you tell everyone just in case they don't know what PCOS is?
Yeah. So PCOS is typically characterized by excess androgens, so like male hormones in the body. So I had like high testosterone and also low progesterone. So then what would happen is I had really irregular cycle. Like there was a point in time where it was like 3 times a year. That's it. My skin really bad because when you have, excess androgens, you're going to end up with hormonal acne. So typically that's characterized by acne from like here to like even onto your neck. It's very much just half of your face. I also had trouble like digesting sugars and carbs. There was weight gain. There was severe like mood instability. I'm kind of lucky with the symptoms I did get because you can get male pattern baldness, you can get like excess body hair growth, like it just creates a whole mess, and it can even result in like poor muscle formation because women typically build their muscle with like estrogen and human growth hormone, not testosterone.
Right. So what was the change that you made that you noticed it? Because you said when you were doing the vegan thing, that was when it was its worst. What were some of because I get this question a lot, and about PCOS. What were the things that you did personally? Of course, you're an individual that has to be clarified as always. But what were some of the things that you noticed just made it like noticeably different, better or improved? Like, what were some of the key things that you've done?
I just want to say, like, just in case anyone misconstrues, I wasn't vegan. I was just like cutting out meat. I would still have some fish and stuff, but I wasn't like, oh, I'm vegan. So I just felt pressured to do that.
Were you plant-based? Would you call it plant-based?
No. I never said anything like that. And I was just sort of trying it and like seeing how I went. And evidently it was hell. So after a while, what I ended up, I went to so many doctors trying to be like, what the hell is wrong with my body? And so many were like, oh, no, like here's a pill, like that'll like regulate you. And I'm like, that doesn't, like, that's not even real. That just stops your hormonal cycle. So it's just creating mess on top of mess, really. And so then I was doing research myself, and then I went to like a holistic GP, and then I went to a gynecologist and like a bunch of other places, and they finally did a blood test, and they're like, okay, yeah, your stuff is all messed up. And they were like, yeah, this is clearly what's happening. And then we went and got my like little sister. I was like to my mom, I was like, oh, you should probably like get her as well. And mom was like, you know what? I had all these same symptoms as you, so I reckon I had it. And then we got my little sister tested. She has it. It can be genetic, can run in family lines. Okay. Because none of us were overweight. Like we just all happened to have all these issues. What I found made a big difference though was one of the tests I got done flagged up actually insulin resistant. And my body, as like, because I was like, why does it feel like every time I'm just constantly gaining weight? I'll eat well, I'll eat, like my brown rice, protein and whatever, and I'm still just like packing on weight for no reason. I'm training hard, like I feel like I'm eating right, and yet my body wasn't using it correctly. So what I did for a period of time, and I made some videos about it, is I actually swapped into a ketogenic diet to pull my fats right up, to pull my carbs right down, just to reset everything. I was getting blood tests every 4 weeks while I was doing this.
Wow.
And I say sometimes, I'm like, please don't jump into this. Like, if you don't know what you're doing, please like work with a profession and help you do this, because it's something you can mess up. And I was getting tested the whole way through just to make sure that, my urea levels aren't too high, my mercury levels aren't too high, I'm messing things up too badly. But there's a lot of people who just go out and guess. what they're doing when it comes to that diet. And it is a medical diet. It was created for like medical uses. I was doing that for a while, and then I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I just really want some goddamn sweet potatoes. So my training had gone to shit because I love weight training, but I had been following keto for about 11 months to like reset everything. And then I found when I jumped off it and I slowly started increasing my carb intake to, you know, some brown rice, like some like more regular potato. God damn, I love regular potato. But like when I started bringing that stuff back in, my body now acts so differently. I still try to put it around my training time, but it's crazy how differently my body reacts to starches and these kinds of foods. Because like when I got that blood test done again, they're like, yeah, you don't have any resistance to it anymore. It's the one where they make you like drink the little sugar liquid and they like check your blood multiple times, and yeah, it went away. And I think that, as well as like if you have insulin resistance, talk to someone because it might be an option. But if you don't have insulin resistance with your PCOS, there's no reason to jump on something so drastic. There's no reason to go low carb. There's no reason to do anything like that. But for most people with PCOS, I would say make sure that your dietary fats are there. Our body creates hormones from cholesterol. So it needs to have a little bit of cholesterol, a little bit of saturated fat and healthy fats and lean protein, and not getting your carbs from donuts, you know, like sugars. Like if I eat 2,000 calories of donuts, that's not the same as 2,000 calories of brown rice. It's not the same as 2,000 calories of potato.
A lot of people would argue that well, if you're eating, that's another thing. If let's say your maintenance calories to maintain 2,000 calories a day. Well, you can lose weight if you eat 1,700 calories of donuts. You're going to be also...
What kind of weight are you losing?
You're going to be so jacked up from eating only donuts. I mean, you're missing so many micronutrients and all these other things. And I personally have recognized that throughout my life, the foods that... And this is kind of similar to business, to anything else. What got you to this point isn't necessarily what's going to get you to the next place, to the next level. And foods that you maybe got away with or that you reacted fine with when you were 20, it's not going to be the same when you're 30 or you're 40, not necessarily. So it's important to be aware. And again, you know, being in tune with your body and eating natural foods and caring about your health and fitness. And again, going back to like an elimination or just attention to what the foods, not just the numbers, but what the foods actually result in. That helps tremendously with people noticing when something's wrong. Because when you just go through your life eating, I mean, there are women out there that, remember that, like those shows, I don't know if you see them, where it's like, oh, I didn't know I was pregnant. Like they sat on the toilet to go to the bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
And like a baby pops out. It's like, how the fuck do you not know that you have a human child in there? Are you that obese that you don't know that you have a baby inside you that's ready to come out? Like, it's insanity. So it's like anything else with the food. You just don't, if you're eating, let's say 15, 20 different things that make you feel like crap, all people think, oh, I'm bloated, or oh, my back hurts, I'm getting old. It's like, no, your back's not supposed to hurt when you're 40 or when you're 50, just because. It's hurting because of repetitive movement patterns or foods that are causing inflammation and autoimmune reactions. And it's important to address that you could be different in 5 years, and you have to be in tune with that.
Yeah. And I like to try and talk to my clients about like noticing how you feel the next day, because I definitely notice, like, if you are eating well, you will literally just be like bouncing around with energy. Like you will notice that difference. Whereas if you're poor quality foods and like constantly spiking and crashing your blood sugar, you're going to feel lethargic. You're going to wake up like, oh my God, I don't want to get out of bed. Like there's going to be a big difference.
Yeah, it's when you're not in tune with everything and you just punch out and you just wait for everyone else. It's like being in the driver's seat and then being in the passenger seat. And if you want other people to make the choices for you, then just follow the bouncing ball, follow a diet, follow vegan or keto. And is keto really like huge in Australia too? I mean, I think the social media kind of covers.
There's a lot of people doing it right now. And
it's so popular.
I'm like, damn, like, oh, and a lot of people do it for weight loss. And I'm like, what are you going to do when you're done? Like, what are you going to do once you've lost the weight? And I talked about it in a video. Like, I was just like, I felt like I lost muscle and I couldn't weight train properly because I had no glycogen left. I was just like running on an empty tank. And I went from deadlifting 105 kilograms, which is what, like 2 hours, all the way down to like 40 kilograms, which is like what, 70 pounds, 80 pounds, something like that.
It's like 80, it's like 90, probably 90 pounds or so. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a huge drop.
whenever there's a fad or something trending, I mean, vegan is trending, the plant-based. I said plant-based earlier as kind of like a joke because people always just put plant-based, I think, because they don't want to say that they still eat meat, but they don't want to be a vegan. They don't want to say vegan. They want to say plant-based.
Plant-based is different. Plant-based is still, you don't eat meat products and you probably don't eat honey, but maybe you wear leather shoes or maybe you aren't. So vegan means to be truly vegan in like all aspects, but you could still have like an animal product here or there, or maybe your makeup was tested on animals or something like that.
Yeah, vegan's more of like the moral aspect of it. Vegan is you don't want to harm anything, which is a whole other thing. But I also find people that put plant-based because it's trending. It's a nice thing to say. You have the little plant-based, you have the little plant emoji in your profile.
A little emoji?
Yeah, and all of a sudden you're woke as fuck and everyone likes you. It's like, oh, cool, I'm so popular. And then the whole keto thing, the whole everything has, I mean, paleo had this back in I wouldn't say back in the day, but maybe like in the last 5 or 10 years. That was the first one that was like, oh, paleo. But then you had South Beach, and you had Weight Watchers and Jenny Craig, and you have all those different things that kind of go through. So it's important to educate people on the individuality and bioindividuality. What's your take on, on that note, the bioindividuality and the gut biome and, gut health and things of that nature? There are a lot of connections with the gut-brain axis and how your body and your brain and depression, mood states, like there's other things, even just aside from the calorie counting, from bloating or physical, the psychological components of the food. Yes. I mean, and that affects, and if you feel depressed, or I mean, that's not necessarily a feeling, that's a whole state, but
it creates a negative loop, doesn't it?
Exactly.
And then you choose the food that makes you feel good for a short period of time, but then you feel bad again. It's like alcohol. It's a depressant.
Yeah. And when you're doing that, when you're going through that cycle, when you're not going to want to, let's say, exercise. So it kind of translates indirectly into weight gain, into other aspects of lack of health, because all these habits can easily fall down because the control center, your brain, is what's in charge of everything. And if you don't have that locked down, a lot of things go to shit. And the psychological component of social media, and I usually ask this to most people, what is your opinion on not necessarily the internet, but I guess the social, like, the apps, Facebook, Instagram? What's your take on that in general as a net positive or a negative? Like, do you feel that in general it's a good thing, or in general it's harming people and we'd be better off without it? If there was like two choices, for example.
I love social media because you can curate, for most of the time, you can curate what you see. You can curate what you intake, and you can choose who you want to interact with and who you want influencing you through that medium. Like, maybe if you go to the explore feed, it's not so much, but like through your homepage, absolutely. Don't get me wrong, like every now and again, I love to just log out of everything and just live in my real life and not post things for like sometimes I just disappear. Like, people know, they'll be like, oh, she hasn't done a story in a while. And I'll get messages like, I hope you're enjoying your break from social media, because people know I do that now. Like, I'll literally just disappear because I feel like for me, that's sometimes if I do feel like I'm getting overwhelmed, I'm like, cool, time to log out. Because I know where my threshold is now. It took me a while to learn that. But I think you can abuse and overuse social media, absolutely. And I think if we're not careful of what we're intaking, that can become a problem. Like, for myself, I don't even own a TV. Ever since I moved out of home, like, my ex owned a TV when we lived together, but like, I have never owned a TV because I don't want to watch ads.
Yeah.
And like, I don't have a car, so I don't listen to the radio. Like, I am so under a rock, right? Like,
but that's good.
I don't want to be affected by advertising.
You're in control of what comes into your zone. And I hate commercials too. And of course, YouTube plays, the pre-roll ads and things like that. But at least you can go and you can choose and you can pick what you want to watch. And I don't think people generally curate things properly. They just allow, that's why when you just follow, when we follow this, you follow 1,000 people on Instagram, your feed is just noise. Like, the only things that I see 1 or 2 people and my own posts. So I don't want to look at things. I want to create things and then go and do my thing. I mean, if I don't do a podcast, if I don't post by like 5 o'clock, I don't go live, people are like, is there a podcast today? Like, where are you? Dead? Are you dead? Like, are you okay? Are you okay? And I'm like, I'm flattered. It's like, oh shoot, like you feel empty without the podcast. So I kind of put myself into a situation where I'm like, all right, well, I have to be doing this every day otherwise. But it's fun. So it's like social commentary and everything. But I totally get what you mean in terms of unplugging. A lot of people don't create that divide. They don't create that separation, and they don't allow themselves to unplug. And that's kind of the only times, aside from, because I juggle a lot of different things, as do you, the only time I felt really overwhelmed and I was really burning my candle down was specifically when I was doing daily videos on YouTube. It wasn't it wasn't the podcast. It wasn't the other thing. Is when I was trying to turn up and like, you know what? For like a month or two, I committed. I'm saying I'm going to do a video every day and just see how it goes. And it went well, but it was just the quality started to go down in terms of like how I would create a video. I was doing things more casually, a little bit less editing than I normally do. It was just about, touching as many topics as I could. I was trying different things, but I was posting every single day for like 60 days. And it felt super stressful. It felt super overwhelming just because of all the additional process. Like going live and doing a podcast, it's up there. It's done. Yeah, and I do a little audio and I upload that and it takes 2 seconds. But with the YouTube, to edit a 20-minute video down and to be like, obviously, this, it takes a lot more preparation, takes a lot more, you
have to plan, and you have to, it's the work outside of the actual filming of the video, which takes the longest time.
Yeah. And I take a very sensitive, I tiptoe around it because I never want anyone to think like, oh, feel sorry for me. I mean, I love what I did.
Yeah, woe is me.
Yeah, woe is me. It's like, oh, I'm creating. But I mean, of course, it's months. I mean, it sounded like from your beginning, you had a nice little burst pretty soon. I didn't see jack shit. You're like, oh, in 2015 I started. Yeah, in 2015 in the summer, I'm like, 2015, in 2016, I didn't see shit for like 2 or 3 years. I had a little burst around like the Olympics back then because I was doing some commentary, got a little, and I thought that was it. I'm like, wow, it's popping. Went right back down, no one, nothing. But it's about finding your voice and finding like the message you want to get across. And what are your thoughts on personal growth? Because we have, like you said, you look back at your earlier posts. I actually went back and I watched. You've probably seen, maybe if you poked around my content, I did a video yesterday, the day before, when I like driving while gaining. I rage in the car and I swear and I just freak out in the car. That was one of the original videos I started doing. And I went back last night and I was editing one of the playlists on my phone in bed. And I said, you know what? Organize by oldest first. And that one popped up and I'm like, let me watch the first episode. It really brought me back because I was talking about where I was hoping to take the brand and just like my editing was garbage and it was just so different. But it was like my first video and I'm thinking like, man, how much I've changed. Some of the messages are the same, but a lot of what I do now and my approach is different. And I catch people doing this online. They will criticize someone or they'll go after something someone said 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And look, I'm sure there's something that you've posted that I might look at and not agree with. I'm sure if you look through my thousands of videos, you'd be like, I don't agree with this, and this. And I'm like, I probably don't agree with it either. So there's things that I've done or that I used to eat that I wouldn't eat anymore. I used to eat candy all the time when I worked out, Sour Patch Kids. And like, that was my excuse, right? I was getting away with it, so to speak. But when you learn, you develop. But I think that's important. If my content's the same now, not just with the quality, but with the message, if it's the same as it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago,
that's a problem.
Yeah, then I'm not doing my job. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Because it shouldn't be a critical point. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm sure you're editing your video, you like watch it back a couple of times, and like I like to make content, like especially my newer stuff, I love it to be relaxing. Like I want people to be able to put it on and feel like they can just like melt like a piece of warm butter into there. Like I want it to feel like that, like a hug from a friend. Not
to cut you off, but I've noticed that. I watched like one of your videos and it was like the music and it was like the transitions. I'm like, why do I feel like I'm getting like a brain massage right now? Good. I felt like there was like some like Tibetan monk in the corner, like gong, with like a gong, and I'm like, wow, there's got to be a waterfall around here somewhere. It was cool.
That's what I wanted to feel like, because I want to be able to like share like what I'm doing and show not only just like giving people because I feel like my old videos I'd be like 7 ways to do this, and like while I feel like it's an effective way to communicate a message, it doesn't show people how you actually integrate it in your everyday life. So I try to show like how I'm doing things rather than just like lecturing people and being like, this is what to do. But when I do my videos, like I'll watch them a bunch of times while I'm editing them. As soon as they go up on all, I have never watched a video again. ever.
Really?
Yeah.
So once you get rid of it, it's like
Once it's up, I've never, I'll literally transfer it out on my external hard drive, never watch it again.
wow. See, I watch sometimes I watch one for like reminiscing. But the only thing that I actually listen to my podcasts. I don't necessarily listen to the entire thing, but I'll usually listen to it, and I listen to it to see, okay, were the audio levels good? Was the intro good? Could I have done something? Was I talking too much? Did I X, Y, and Z? But I listen to it to kind of give myself some perspective on like what other people are listening to. It kind of gives me like a little bit of a thrill. I'm like, man, people are listening to this. Like, this is insane. And I guess a little bit of pride in my work, but also to, hone the craft a little bit. But I mean, you get that also when you're editing it and you're looking at it, because you'll watch it over and over again and make sure it's good. And then you upload it. So I totally see that.
I'm like a nitpicker. I feel like for years I struggled with that whole like perfectionist thing.
Big time.
And I would rip everything to parts. Like none could insult me on my channel with things that I didn't already think about myself. I was really critical of like not only myself, but also of the work that I put out. So I think steps I had to take to like eliminating that is like, it's funny things like wearing baggy clothes just because I don't give a shit anymore, stopping wearing makeup because I'm not trying to like hide my face anymore, not watch my old content because I know I'll sit there and be like, I should have transitioned this like this, that audio is off, blah, blah, blah. Like, because I get like that, like I get all in my own head, so I have to like that and find ways to just keep moving forward and progressing without being overly analytical of myself.
Yeah. I mean, being a perfectionist is a component of procrastination. So if you're trying to be perfect, and I found that out the hard way, literally when I started doing this, and I'm sure you probably feel the same way, when you watch a movie, I noticed like, oh, that was a good edit. Like that was on point. Like that transition, or I'll see like, man, that sound editing was excellent. And I never would think about this before, but I'm like, oh, the editors, like when you have like the Academy Awards, I'm like, oh, the editors do all the work. They do all the work. The actors are great. That's fine. It's the editing. That's why the movie, you might shoot for a month or so or two, and then it takes like 8 months or 10 months for it to come out. You realize that the editors do all of it, like the reshoots, and it's just, it's amazing the work that goes into it, but like the perspective that you get on like anyone's content creation, you're like, wow, you watch someone's video and you're like, I like that editing. That was really good. Or, oh, the camera and equipment. Oh my God, camera equipment. Yeah. I'm sure you go through different things, and it's just.
Yeah. I used to work as a photographer as well. Like I did that like freelance, and I have an equipment problem. Like that's like the one thing where I can't like fully declutter it, because I'm like, what if I need this lens for this specific purpose?
But that's how it works. It's like and I equate it to and my father is a photographer himself. So it's a little bit, obviously it's different. Videography is different. But at the beginning when he sent me like a little gift package of like a couple different clamps and all this different stuff. And I'm like, what am I going to use this for? He goes,
that's so cool.
And he goes, when you need it, he goes, you'll have it. And wouldn't you know it, like after the course of 3 years, I'm using everything. I'm like, oh, I have something for that. It's like the ability to have something that you need when you need it. Just like when you're a mechanic, you need that tool, you have it. You don't always use it, but when you need it, it's there. So I have drawers and drawers of just clips and clamps. And this is just, it's crazy, but it's always fun to, I don't know, the creative aspect is fun. So I make all these videos of, obviously roasts and comedy, and that's just my sense of humor. But it's also like the outlet. It's getting it out there and kind of getting your creative, scratching your creative itch. And I think it's like it's a real honor to do it. And I'm sure you probably feel the same way, just the ability to have people that want to watch and listen and hear what you have to say.
Oh, I can't believe it. It's so weird. I was in high school. This wasn't a job. Like what? I
know. It's like all of a sudden you're making a YouTube video, and then it's like, this actually brings in, I mean, it's not a fortune, but it's like, it brings in just the ability for you to be your own boss and to do like what makes you happy and to create something. Actually, I wanted to ask you this just for you, because a lot of people that come on here are actually content creators, or they're thinking about starting. What would you say for someone that wants to get into creating videos or creating a channel, whether it's in health or not? Like, what would be something that you've learned from starting to where you are now? Because a lot of people will look at, and I know I was the same way, because I started in 2016. And of course I have a lengthy career in fitness and nutrition, exercise, a lot of like, for my personal work and stuff like that. But I could have easily looked at in 2016, I'm like, man, this space is so saturated. There's all these channels already. Everyone's already posting fitness content. What am I going to add? So a lot of people just get hung up on that and they never start.
Yeah. I think your channel and what you're doing needs to either entertain, educate, or inspire. That's the three. And if you can hit one or two of them, you need to try. And I also think you need to be solving a problem for someone. So what do? You give people fitness advice without any of the bullshit attached. You're not trying to sell them a juice cleanse. You're not trying to like push anything in that way. You're trying to go, here's the facts. This is what it is. Take it if you want it. If you don't like it, then just leave it. I don't care. And like with me, like I try to approach fitness from a way that is creative. Like even a lot of people who follow me are pretty creative. Like when I get chatting with them, so many of them are in creative careers, and they're like, I just love the way you edit and the way you present your information, because it's different to the fitness stuff. It's different to the other nutrition stuff. And like even like, you know, I have a lot of tattoos on me. Like I'm just trying to be like the Wicked Witch of the weights room, essentially. Like I just want to approach it being like authentic and being me. And so many of the fitness people here, it's like, you know, the tan, the blonde hair, like that kind of thing where it's like, if I'm like Lululemon wants to book you for an ad campaign, yeah, there we go. But like you could easily jump into an ad campaign for a brand and not have an offensive look to you. Whereas I feel like I have a bit of an alternative vibe to my look, which isn't your typical fitness thing.
Yeah, but that's what also attracts attention and attracts, especially when there's more. And that's actually how I look at it now that I realize it. But at the beginning, okay, you think there's so many people, there's so much already there. How am I going to get in? When I see a lot of people and a lot of accounts and a lot of videos, it's almost like it becomes white noise. I feel like there's more space for someone new to come in, because the same people tend to gravitate towards, just like with YouTube, you tend to gravitate towards certain types of thumbnails, certain types of content. You tend to get more PC and more mainstream. So someone that has more edgy content like myself and others that are making these videos that kind of pushing against this like common trend, the social trends and everything we talked about already, that there's a big audience that are just tired of the same old shit. And then there's actually a lot of space.
One person does it and they get success from it. So other people are going to copycat, right?
Sure, of course.
How many times can you go on Instagram and see people bookmark this workout and save it for your next time at the gym? And it's like a
swipe
slide
over
across. Like
things,
I've done a couple of those, and I'm
accordions.
like, this is my standard chest workout. I don't shit between sessions. Here's what it is, and I'll post it like one time. But like I think, you know, you need that progressive overload, and you need a bit of stability in your training program. You can't be flipping from like this leg workout to that leg workout to this chest workout to this full body workout. I think it's just like that's what we're presented with now, and I think people are making it seem like that's the right do, because you'll see someone who looks great, who is fit themselves, who has been training for years, going, try this workout next time you go.
And all these workouts have to be that I really try sometimes to post some exercise in my membership site. I have all the tutorials and my programs and stuff. But in terms of the front facing content, I feel like, you know, how to do a bench press, that's pretty commoditized. If you want, like, if you need another video on YouTube about how to do a bench press, like there are many accounts with very intelligent people that explained it probably even better than I could. It's like it's already done.
Like 6 years ago.
Yeah, and like and I mean, people are still, you know, how do you do this? It's a bench press. It's the basics. And with Instagram, for example, people want to be like, in order to break through, you're trying to do the most outrageous shit. So you have these crazy acrobatic things and exercises because it gets attention. But it's not the best way to get results. Like that's a high risk exercise. That's not really for your audience. Don't bullshit me. You don't do that. You just did it for the gram. Like that's literally what's happening. People are not.
I see it in the gym.
Sure.
Yeah, like Mitch will be doing an incline bench press and he'll have like 45 kilos in each hand. No, like he's not grunting, carrying on. No one even looks. But then there's a guy doing kipping pull-ups and people are like,
yeah, right. Like, wow, that's amazing. He's moving up and down. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's like whatever gets that, you know, it needs to look high energy. It needs to look like it's something different where people go, wow, how do they do that?
Yeah, like the show American Ninja Warrior. You've probably seen it. They probably have so I mean, it's a cool show to watch. But that, you know, at first it was CrossFit and then it was that, and it led into all these like different things in grip. And what I like about these different kind of fads is that it creates a lot of cool equipment that you can buy and use for different things. Like the industry has grown, but it also gets distracted because you have this from the beginning when fitness really kind of took off. Like a little another bump was like in 2003 or 4 when P90X really got popular. And that brought around the phrase muscle confusion, which just means you mean variety, you mean changing up your workouts. Like it's not, the muscles don't get confused, they just adapt, and now you're changing it. Now there's a different adaptation.
Yeah.
But
That's
now
why I changed the aim my lat pull down.
of course,
hit a slightly different,
but every
not
day,
like,
it doesn't have to be a completely different
No.
thing every freaking day. But people do that. And they wonder why they don't get results because your body's not adapting because it's reacting. It's an alarm reaction and it's just trying to handle it rather than, master it and then improve. And I think it's not glamorous. It's not sexy, but to tell someone do this, repeat it. That's why it's called reps, because you do it over and over and over and over again until your body has no choice but to adapt and grow. If you're getting your sleep, if you're getting your nutrition, your hydration, and there's so many different components and there's so many different, cracks where things can fall through. If you're not getting sleep, you're not going to feel like training. You're not going to have, hormone issues. You're going to not be recovering. You're going to overtrain. You're going to get injured. And these high risk things, one of the biggest things that sets people back are injuries. And it's very easy to get injured doing these high risk movements.
Oh, I get injured falling down a staircase. That's literally what happened like a month ago.
Well, if you fall
I've
down,
never injured myself in the gym.
That would do
it. Outside of the gym, I am just chaos.
Around the metal sharp objects, I'm fine. But if you put me like on Earth, just running into the walls, that cracks me up. That's funny.
Essentially.
Yeah, but the high risk, and there's enough chaos in the world when you go to the gym. I feel like there's a lot of merit to control. There's a lot of merit to something where the gym is a safe environment, and doesn't mean that you don't train hard, but it's a controlled environment, and everything in life is chaos. So your body, it's hard to have specific adaptations when you have the weights that are evenly balanced. A lot of people that are doing strongman competitions and again, CrossFit, you're trying to excel at everything. Well, the fundamental principle of adaptation is that you're not going to excel at everything. You can't adapt to every style of training. You can't adapt to cardio and strength training. Every time I tried to do I got into like those Spartan races and those trail runs.
Oh, yeah.
And I was doing those for a while. This is like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. I was doing those, but I was also deadlifting. So I was doing deadlifts with like 400, 500 pounds. And then I was going and running 10 miles on the beach. And wouldn't you know it, after a while, I started getting like tendonitis. My knee would start hurting because I'm trying to combine endurance exercise with heavy training. And I was doing too much, but a lot of people don't even know that they're doing too much. And it's because they don't feel like it's like taxing them too much, but their body just can't handle and juggle. It's like juggling like 2 balls and then you juggle 5. They're still balls, but it's going to be, one of them is going to fall and something's going to happen. That's going to be your knee, your neck, your shoulder. And it's just not necessarily training for the right.
But even just the recovery was something that I had to learn as well. Like when I was like frustrated and not getting results, I was overtraining to the point where like if I'm training twice a day every day for like months on end, I'm not going to cut that. No way. So then like your sleep is shot, like you're not recovering properly. You're not even getting the muscle development that you like should be getting if you're training. It took me so long to be like, oh, hang on, like let me just cut it back. And even recently, like when I injured my back and I couldn't train for almost a month, it's crazy because it's just like nutrition. That's all I can do in this time where I couldn't train. Mm-hmm. And Mitch was like, you're looking so much leaner, like literally because I gave my body some extra rest. And it was like recovering. I
noticed that when I was first starting to train, taking it seriously, that when I remember I took like 2 or 3 days off. I have this vivid memory, which is probably not like accurate for my image, but I remember taking 2 or 3 days off and then getting back to the gym and noticing, wow, I have a crazy pump. Like I looked like I
can lift. Yeah.
But I looked like, my muscles, I was like, my God, like I haven't lifted for 3 days. And this is like early when I first started training, I realized, when you rest and you actually fully recover, that's a good thing. So we have this issue now where people think, especially with fitness, where you have more is always better. And we have
train hard, do more, yeah.
And there's this whole push now where, okay, if you're a natural lifter, you should be doing more frequency and less. But people don't understand the fundamental concepts of frequency training and volume, so they try to do more often, and they're doing legs 3 times a week and 4 times. Like, there's a point where you need.
Are your legs even recovering from the last session?
Exactly. Is that relative? Are you increasing the frequency, but then decreasing the volume and adjusting it in that sense? A lot of people. A lot of people completely just miss the boat on that one. Have you ever done 2-a-days? You mentioned 2-a-days. Did you ever do that?
Mm-hmm. And it was for like an extended period of time. And then I was just like, why is this so frustrating? Why am I working so hard? And like, it's going backwards. And I was like, God damn it. Like now I look back on it and I'm like, I get what you're trying to do. Like I understand the process, but like the recovery, it took me so long to learn that recovery is so important, like more important than people even say it is. It's like there's three, and I think nutrition is going to give you most of your results, followed by recovery, and then the training. Because I have girls getting crazy results, getting like, muscular. I'm doing body weight training, but we've got them doing solid nutrition and sleeping properly and taking days off.
Yeah, when you actually recover completely, it changes the game, and most people aren't recovering. Again, sleep with technology and blue light, and I'm big on that. And I'm like the most open, trying not to be hypocrite, because my sleep is all over the place. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on morning and evening people. I love getting up super early, but I have the ability to, if I want to stay up till 5 a.m., I just stay up. I don't get tired.
Oh my God.
Like I can just stay up and work. So I'll be doing this. But here's the thing for me, my brain, I'll have amazing ideas at like 6 a.m. when I'm showering, and then like, oh my God, and I go right down on my whiteboard and I go for like another hour. So I have these like twilight ideas when it's always late in the night, and I have this battle with fighting myself. Okay, I know it's not good, but then at the same time, some people have said that everyone's a little bit different. Some people, as long as you're getting enough sleep, enough hours. But I mean, psychologically, I like to get up early and have a long day, but sometimes I'm rocking at night. And if I'm on a roll, I don't want to stop. And it's tough.
Well, it depends, doesn't it? Because they say like, people can have different circadian rhythms, but then at the same time, isn't it studied and noted that cortisol starts to rise at 3 a.m.?
What'd you
say? So if you're
what was that part?
Cortisol starts to rise at 3 a.m. So if you're going to bed at 4 a.m., are you going to get restful of sleep? Like, yes, you might be knocked out to the world for 8 hours, but is it deep sleep?
Right. The quality of the sleep, very important. Yeah. So, I mean, just went out here.
Out of focus.
That's, yeah, the quality of sleep I usually mention to people, and, are you waking up frequently in the middle of the night and this, that, and the other? So I am definitely not a sleep master. I'm just aware that it's very important. And I share the fact with the world that it's very important and that you should pay attention to your sleep, even though I'm not perfect at it. But that's important to address. That's kind of like been always when you're in front of the computer and you're doing a lot of editing and a lot of stuff, it takes a lot of the same kind of discipline. It takes a discipline to shut down the computer. I'm doing that better. I'm like, okay, computer's off. And then of course I have my phone, but it's like making those little hard limits and adjusting it slowly. And it's really hard if you're up really late for a while, or you're a nurse and you're working night shift, and all of a sudden you can't just get back into a good sleep rhythm. It takes a long time. And sometimes it takes years for some of these women that have been on night shift for like a decade. It's hard to unwind that.
Yeah. And I think like if you do shift work, it's going to be more absolutely. Like I don't doubt that for a second. Like I feel very privileged to live the life that I do, where I can get up when I want and I can go to sleep when I want. Like that's a luxury that not many people have. Absolutely. But I did a little experiment on myself just to see how I react. I did it for multiple nights in a row. I have an Apple Watch. I don't use it to track calories. So inaccurate, like wildly inaccurate. But I like using it to use my calendar, and I love using it to like track my heart rate through my sleep. I think that's very interesting data. And so I had like a week in a row where some nights I would use my phone right up until I went to bed, and other nights I would put the phone away an hour before I went to sleep. My deep sleep on the nights where I used my phone went from like an hour to an hour 45. And my deep sleep on the nights where there was no technology before bed was 3.5 hours.
Wow.
That's more than double. Come on.
Yeah, that's not even close. That's not even close. I mean, they say you should be putting your phone down like at least an hour. And I like the whole turning the lights off, candles, maybe light music and stuff like that. But again, it's the habit. You have to create a routine, and you have to create something that you do in like a systemic process. And, people like yourself that are showing and like doing your vlogs and kind of showing like your actions, not so much just like do this, the 3 things. You're actually showing people the action, and that you're living the life. You're practicing what you preach, and vice versa. It's not just, okay, I have a degree, you should be doing this, thanks. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's important to, I guess, not be a hypocrite. And, if you are, or you're struggling with something, to be transparent. There's a lot of what I've seen since, and it's funny because you started.
Oh, hang on. I think we froze for a second.
Did I freeze? Am I good?
Yes.
Okay. Because you started in 2015, I did in 2016. That was right around the time where Snapchat got started and kind of like got popular, right around there. And the reason why I say that is because once Snapchat came up, and then Instagram and Facebook were like, we need to add that. And then you have Instagram stories. That keeps people, and of course the live broadcasting, but you don't have to go live, but the stories and things that are, these platforms push those things, you lose that ability to edit beforehand. Because when they first came out, you couldn't like edit and then upload. You had to do it in the app and that was it. So I think a lot of this ability to see every last thing, to all these platforms are more integrated. People are more exposed, so you can't sling the same type of bullshit and be hypocritical and be like, you should get more sleep, and then you're out partying all night. Like, people are gonna see you. People are gonna tag you. You're always like on display. It was very easy before to just kind of, again, like the vegan girl that you're mentioning. It's you can say you're doing one thing and then on the DL try to work on this. The transparency is why a lot of people are distrusting those of us that have audiences. They're less trusting, so it's more important to be even more authentic. But it's hard for a lot of people. It's hard to like open up and be honest because you're afraid of being judged, and you're judging yourself. Everyone's comparing themselves.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. I feel like I couldn't even count how many shitty comments I've gotten over this, honestly. And because I do share from a personal perspective, like there was a while where in 2015, 2016, I was vlogging a lot. Mm-hmm. And then it's just like these comments like ripping on me personally about how I look, about what I wear, about my haircut, about my makeup, about like literally the tiniest, shittiest, stupidest little thing. You just like, you want to close up. And so for a period of time, I stopped vlogging and I was like, screw that. Like, I don't want to share because I just don't want to I just don't want to read it. I don't care to want to read it. Like, I don't want to have to deal with that being part of my day. And I know it's not like the worst problem to have. Like, there are far worse things you could be dealing with as part of, but it was still enough to make me not want to share. And I was like, by not sharing, I'm not helping anyone.
Right.
And I think the more that I open up and actually share and like talk to people, that's when people can actually connect with me and learn like, okay, well, this is actually working for you. Why is she doing it like this? And I think it's more important for me. Like, I'd rather deal with all the crap comments and people saying shit to me. Like, I got someone the other day saying that like, I don't give a realistic approach for busy mothers. And I'm like, I don't have kids. I don't know what that's like. Like, I can only share my learned experience. Like, that's all we're coming from. We're coming from like our background, our lifestyle, our lived experiences. That's what we have. So if someone can relate to that, then that's amazing. But yeah, I've gotten to the point now where it's like, if people want to be critical, like I just screenshot it and I laugh about it in a group chat with my friends. We all do.
Yeah, it's important to engage with your audience and to answer comments, and I do that a lot. However, when you go in, you're going to see a lot of people that are negative, but it can't keep you from the positive that you're doing. But it's very easy to notice that, especially at the beginning. And that's why a lot of people don't start, because people are like, oh, they're savage. Yeah, people make fun of me when I have my hair up in a bun. It's like, well, I have long hair and I don't want it down when I'm at the gym. So yeah, I put up in a bun, and it doesn't matter. Like, those kind of details don't matter. It says more about the person than to you or to the creator. But at the same time, it's how you separate yourself from your content. It's how you separate yourself from, what you're doing and your intent. And if you're being authentic and you're being truthful and you're being real, you tend to have a more positive audience. And I think a lot of these creators that have massive dislike ratios and get a lot of hate, it's because they're kind of being flaunting, they're the poison of the internet, and they're not hitting it home, because there's a lot of other people that do similar content to what I do, and they get a lot of pushback. They get a lot of negativity. They get a lot of hate against what they're saying because they're not delivering their message properly. They're not inspiring. They're being more negative and critical, because when we talk about bullshit, we're talking about fat acceptance and this, those are sensitive topics that a lot of people get pissed off about. And it's a serious issue, but it's also a very delicate one. And if you can convey that to your audience authentically, people will, respond and they'll be appreciative of it.
And I think, I can't even remember who said it now, but it was like, you can say anything you want as long as you say it the right way. And I think that's like when it comes to like what I'm trying to share about like how to be more mindful of your food, and like, yes, you can track calories without it being obsessive. And yes, you can eat well without it being like the mentality of like black and white foods and I can never eat this and I can only eat this. Like I like to preach about like how you can integrate these things more holistically and how to like sort of revamp your lifestyle, like not just the food and not just the going to the gym and actually like working your ass off, but actually addressing the rest of your lifestyle, because it all works together.
And when you have an audience as big as you do, and because I get a lot of people ask me like, how do you come up with so much content? And for me, it's not hard. Like I know for a lot of people, they're concerned, like, what am I going to do a video on today? For me, I have no shortage of things to talk about. I mean, most of my episodes have been solo podcasts, and today's 1174 in a row. And there's
crazy,
but it's literally talking, but I'm talking about things that I know about. I'm sharing my experience because I've been training for 20 years. I share my education. I engage. I answer questions with my opinion. If I don't know, if someone asks me a hardcore question about PCOS, and if I don't know, I say, I'm sorry, I don't have a great answer. If anyone else knows, drop in the comments below. It's like, if you are authentic to what you know and you're okay with not knowing things, like you're a fucking human being. You're not going to know everything. You're not going to you're not going to have necessarily a comment or I guess command on every single topic. But if you are just being you, there's no shortage of you. There's no shortage of what you like to do. It's just putting it out there. And your stuff is interesting to me, and my stuff is interesting to you because I don't know you. I'm not with you every day. You're not with me every day. So when you see an insight into my life and you can relate, then it strikes home. And if you're relatable, that's what people want to see. I think the days of, okay, you're a celebrity, you're a movie star, you're on People magazine, and you are untouchable before the internet really took off. People don't want that. People want to be like, oh, I see myself in this person. Oh, this person's a real dude, like The Rock, for example. His Instagram, he's like a real down to earth, with his audience, and that connects with a lot of people. That the humility aspect of it, and having someone else being able to see a reflection of themselves in there, I think it's really important.
I think it's also on how you make people feel. Like if I see someone on Instagram who's constantly like posting photos of themselves looking like super lean but calling themselves fat, of course they're going to get shits for like in the comments, because people are like, if you're fat, then what am I? And like blah, blah, blah. Because how are you making people feel? Like I try, like when people come to my stuff, I want them to feel relaxed. I want them to feel like they can just like watch a bunch of stuff. And like, I'm sure you probably like amp people up, and like, everyone's going to give a different feeling. So I think everyone knows deep in their gut, like that doesn't make me feel right when I watch it if they're watching someone who's not being themselves.
Yeah, there's that. I said this again. You're bringing up so many things that I feel like I just talked about. I forget where I said, but that sixth sense where people can, when you meet someone and you just have like a bad feeling, you just get a bad vibe, right? You just don't feel good. Something about the person or a situation, and that's what I felt when I saw your content. I kind of looked through. I just had a good feeling. I just had like, good vibes, and it just comes across sometimes. I mean, I guess I look at enough content, but when you don't feel that connection and you don't feel that person's being real, it is a big deal, especially now when there's so much ability to see behind the scenes. Again, with like stories and live casts, like when we do right now, there's no editing here. It's live. People are watching, people are listening. I mean, of course I can edit it later, which I won't, but there's nothing to hide here. So if something happens, it happens now. And I think that's one of the big things that I always liked. I feel like live is underutilized. And I know this is that
people get nervous about it.
I love it. I
really think they do.
I love it. I feel I come alive when I go a live broadcast, I feel more natural. I'm not sure what that is. But it's, it's a lot of people really like lock up. They'll do videos, but then when they go live, they don't know how to have a conversation. But live, I just feel like is a lost art. It's kind of like being on stage where you can't hide anything. So if you can have a skill and you master being, a live broadcast, I feel like there's something unique about it just because a lot of people don't do live. And I noticed that. And that's not why I started doing it, but it just feels like that's something that people avoid because maybe the exposure and maybe the fact that you can't edit it, that, you know, whatever happens, happens. But I feel like that's part of the allure to it because you can't, it's real.
Yeah, it is what it is, and you can't go back and change it or make it sound different later.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so many things we could talk about. There's so many, I mean, I can literally talk to you for hours like we already have. Because a lot of like, what would be in terms of everything we've talked about, I guess, what is the most frustrating for you? Because you're a content creator. I know you don't necessarily make the same type of content, but what is your, I guess I would ask, I'm not going to ask a cheesy question like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? But what are some of your, like, where are you, because you've seen your transition and you've developed from when you started, where do you find yourself going? Like, what are you more interested in terms of your content creation, maybe from your business aspect? Like, where are you looking to move this towards in terms of maybe in the context of what's frustrating you about what other creators are lacking? Like if that's driving you at all.
If they're lacking, it means more for me, so I don't really care. But
exactly.
like in terms of like my own content, I just want to create that feeling. Like I want someone to be like, I've had a shit day at work, so instead of, oh, you know what, she's got a new video, I'm gonna go and watch it, and that's how I'm gonna like relax, because I want to like integrate the tips and things without it being like me going, you need to do this A, B, C, because I've done that and I don't feel like it's an effective way to communicate. So if I can like bring the tips and advice into my content in a way where it's like showing what I'm doing, giving people a feeling where they feel positive and they come to my channel to relax, or they come to my channel to just be like, you know what, this is a nice time for me to just be quiet and like be mindful and like watch a video like watering our goddamn plants, like, you know, like, because there's stuff like that in some of them. So it's just like, I don't know, I really want to chase that feeling, and I want people to feel like comfort and happy and know that it's like, you don't have to stress about this stuff. You know, you're going to eat anyway, so just make a nice choice. Like if you've got 30 minutes, you have time to go out, walk, or, you know, you can look after your body in a way where it's like coming from wanting to improve yourself and wanting to be like a more content, happy, confident version of yourself. You don't have to punishment. You don't have to do it to like lose weight. Like I feel like weight loss and physical changes are just a side effect of having the right actions. I feel like if I can show the lifestyle.
Yeah. If you're showing like the steps, you're showing the micro, you're going to get the macro, rather than worry about the weight loss or like, I want to lose 50 pounds. Well, you have to lose 1 pound at a time. And if you make these changes day to day, guess what's going to happen down the road? You're going to lose 50 pounds. And if you're making the right lifestyle choices for your life, for your overall health, you're going to get there anyway. A year is going to pass. 2 years are going to pass regardless. So the choices that you make are going to lead to the, you know, to the end result down the line. So
I often say to my clients, like it's the small decisions which are easy to overlook that matter the most. Am I going to stay up later? Am I actually going to bed? Am I going to just cook something really quick because I've got it here, or am I going to order something? It's these tiny little micro decisions that all add up at the end of the day.
Yeah, and those choices are going to lead either to wellness, to overall health, and that's a vague term. I know we've talked about a lot of aspects of this. Fitness, I'm starting to think like, what does it even mean anymore? What is health and fitness? And then there's wellness, and there's nutrition. It literally is such a blanket term. Like we say, the fitness industry, you know, the BS in the fitness industry. I'm starting to doubt what the fitness industry,
which part of it?
What is it? The supplements, like the veganism, the carnivore, the, lifestyle. I mean, the way I think of it is kind of like a part of a rope. It's one of the actual strings in the rope. And fitness is not something that you separate in terms of, okay, if I get my work done, I'm going to go be fit. It's something that integrates with your life. And if you look at fitness as a part of your life, and it's not just something that you do when you have time, a lot of things change.
It's something for you to feel good.
Right.
It's like, it's a way to look after yourself, and a way to, I think people like that. They say, oh, I don't want to work out. It's so hard. I freaking love going to the gym. I get so excited. Like the night before, I'm like, yes, like I'm training back tomorrow. Like I'm so keen, because it's like, I don't know, I enjoy it so much. And if I can share that with people and like to be excited about things and enjoy it, like not everyone has to go to the gym. Like if you want to go hiking, go hiking. If you want to go swimming, go swimming. Like I think as long as you're doing something, if you can enjoy it and if you can like the food you're eating, it's not as hard as people make it out to be.
I agree. And the one thing that I did learn that I'm going to try to use is a phrase you said earlier. I'm going to try to use at least at some point in the next week or so, prickly pear. You said that at one point. You said like, "Oh, I'm not such a prickly pear anymore." I was like, "Prickly pear? Like I gotta talk to you Aussies more often. I'm gonna learn a lot of English." That
I don't even know if that's like a thing or if I just speak like an 80-year-old woman. I don't know.
I don't know if it's not a thing. It's going to be hashtag everyone tag the podcast hashtag prickly pear. That's a new thing. Well. In closing, do you have anything that you would like to say to your audience, to those of you that might have been sticking around? Obviously, this has been a wonderful podcast. Why don't you actually tell everyone? Oh, I was getting some feedback. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you if they don't know already, which I'm sure I put it in the post description, but why don't you tell them where you want them to go?
Yes. So my Instagram is just Rachel Aust, which is RACHELAUST, and my YouTube and literally everything I'm on is the same.
Cool. Excellent.
Cool.
I heard.
Do you want to say hi to my vlog real quick?
Oh, I do. Hi.
I'm doing a weekly vlog, so everyone can say hello.
Say hello.
And they can find your podcast on the Swolenormous podcast channel.
Yes, Daily Swole podcast. Yes. Go follow me. Check it out. If you want to see insanity. Well, thank you so much, Rachel. I mean, I'll wrap this up, but then you can stay for a couple minutes after. I'd love to follow that up. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being here I know it's early, but I know we all appreciate it.
Not too bad.
What time is it there?
11 a.m.
Oh, we started at your 9 a.m. I thought it was like 7 or 8. All right. Well, very cool. Well, I hope to do this again sometime. It would be fantastic to follow up. And I mean, it'd be an absolute pleasure. And of course, if I ever travel really, really far, I'll send you a message and I'll look you up. But yeah, it's been great. I know there's a lot of stuff to talk about and there's always going to be, oh, someone just said, someone just said, are you a Queenslander? I don't know what that means.
I was, and then I moved to Victoria.
Okay. So if you want to find her, she's in Victoria. I don't even know where that is. I just know Australia's far away and I can't swim that well. So, but yeah, I hope to do this again real soon. And yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, good.
All right. Say goodbye.
Bye.
I'll catch you in just a couple moments. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me for episode 1174 of the Most Muscular Swolecast, Beercast, Broadcast, Gaincast, Mancast, Pimpcast, Sleazecast, and Slaycast. In the realm, because when I flex, you flex, we all flex our biceps. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you tomorrow for episode 1175 of the Daily Swole. Peace, McGee's fam. Deuce, Magoose, your boy, Papa Swolio. Out.